Hello and welcome to the MegaCast by Actual Tech Media. Today's topic, it's all about cloud, the tools, products, and services critical to cloud success. Thanks so much for joining us on the MegaCast. We've got an awesome event lined up for you today. On today's event, you'll hear from experts from CrowdStrike, Gigamon, Rubrik, Census, Glean, Palo Alto, Cohesity, and Lacework. These are the innovators, the leaders in the technology space today, all around cloud tools, products, and services. And you're going to see live demos. You're going to get all your questions answered. And I hope that you're going to learn a lot on the event today. Now, before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about the format of today's MegaCast. You may have heard that we do have some prizes, and we do. I'll be talking about those here in just a moment, as well as the eligibility requirements. I like to say on the MegaCast, we've got a mega lineup of prizes, and we do. But first, we always want these events to be educational. We encourage your questions there in the questions pane of the audience console, and we even have a best question prize to maybe help shake loose some of those questions. If you're not quite sure if you should ask a question, the best question prize is there to help encourage additional questions. We know how tough it can be out there in the world of enterprise technology. You've got challenges left and right, and we want to help to solve your challenges, especially around cloud technology today on the MegaCast. So keep those questions coming, and we'll have some poll questions for you as well out there in the audience. And of course, we appreciate your participation in those polls. That's how we get your feedback. That's how our presenters hear from you, is via the polls. So again, we really appreciate your responses to the polls during the event. We always want these events to be social. We appreciate all the hellos and good mornings and good afternoons from across the world, around the world and across the United States. They're in the questions pane, but you can also tweet directly from your audience console there using the Twitter icon, and the hashtag for today's event will be automatically appended. And then finally, I want to call your attention to the resources there in the Handouts tab. We've got some awesome resources hand-selected by today's presenters, one for each of the expert presentations on the MegaCast today. They are PDFs you can download. There's ebooks. There's special trial links. Make sure that you check those out. And then I suppose I should mention, my name is David Davis of Actual Tech Media, and I'll be serving as one of the moderators on the crew today here at the MegaCast. We're also joined today by moderator Jess Steinbach and Scott Becker. We are excited about the show. I hope that you are as well. We've got some awesome prizes. Like I said, the prize lineup today is 5 Surface Laptop 5s. So 5 Surface Laptop 5s. These are brand new, awesome laptops. We're giving these away on the event today, as well as an Amazon $500 gift card after each presentation, roughly every 30 minutes on the MegaCast. That is a whole lot of prizes. Of course, you must be live in attendance to qualify for the prize drawings, and the winners will be announced live during the event. The prize terms and conditions can be found there in the Handouts tab of your audience console. Winners will have the option to make a donation to selected charities that you see actually on the screen in just a moment. All prize winners must submit an IRS Form W-9. We reach out to prize winners via email after the event. Over the years, we've donated thousands of dollars to the charities that you see here on the screen, thanks to generous prize winners who win a prize and then say, you know, hey, we'd like to help someone less fortunate. So if you'd like to donate your prize value to charity, we would love to help you do that. And then a bonus prize, one for each of the 8 different sessions on the MegaCast. Today, we have our best question prizes. So this is for 8 additional Amazon $50 gift cards. And what this means is you have to ask a question to be entered into the prize drawing. After the event, we'll sort through all the questions, and we'll select the best question prize winner, one for each session. So not just one for the whole event, but one for each session on the event today. So that's 8 additional Amazon $50 gift cards. Of course, all prize winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. And then, as I mentioned, the hashtag for today is ATM MegaCast. That will be automatically appended if you use the Twitter icon on the right-hand side of your audience console. You can follow Actual Tech Media on Twitter as well by clicking on the Twitter icon on the top of the screen. Our YouTube icon is also up there. That'll take you to the YouTube channel for Actual Tech Media. It's there that you can subscribe to all of our events as well as our LinkedIn channel. The link is there as well at the top of your screen to subscribe to our LinkedIn channel from Actual Tech Media. That's where we post all of our latest and greatest content. And then you'll find a link to the Gorilla Guide book series in your handouts tab. You can also click on the link there on the screen. This is a great way to stay up to date on the latest in enterprise tech. These are books authored by top industry experts, and oh yeah, they're all free, completely free, full-length educational books. We encourage you to visit gorilla.guide. Again, the link is there in the handouts tab. And then finally, we have our Refer a Friend or IT coworker program here at Actual Tech Media. I want to make sure everyone knows about. If you refer your IT friends or coworkers, you both could win an Amazon $300 gift card. We hold these drawings monthly, and you can click on the link right there on the screen to refer your IT friends or coworkers. The link is also in the handouts tab, and at the end of the event, you'll be automatically redirected to the Refer a Friend page. A great way to share what we're doing here at Actual Tech Media with your IT friends and colleagues, and you both could end up with some Amazon cash just in time for the holidays. All right, so with that housekeeping information out of the way, I'm excited now to introduce you to a good friend of mine and a super smart guy. And hey, he's also fun to hear from. His videos are always educational and entertaining. I follow him over on YouTube, his YouTube channel, and his Pluralsight courses are, just awesome. He's got a huge library of cloud-related Pluralsight courses over in the Pluralsight library. He's Ned1313 on Twitter and nedinthecloud.com. Who is it? Oh, it's Ned Bellavance, Pluralsight author and MVP. Excited to have him on the event today. Ned, take it away.
Hey everybody, this is Ned Bellavance, and today I wanted to talk to you about how you're not late to the cloud. You'll arrive exactly on time. There's this kind of pervasive feeling, a fear of missing out about cloud adoption. And this is something that cloud vendors have certainly taken advantage of in their marketing. The idea that somehow all of your competitors have already made a full transition to the cloud. Meanwhile, you're stuck in the dark ages, plugging away on derelict systems running in your sad on-premises data center. No shiny cloud for you. But that's simply not the case. There are still plenty of organizations that are at the beginning of their cloud journey, and I thought we could consider why. First, that's fine. It's not a big deal. And secondly, why that might actually end up being a good thing for you. The reason why it isn't a big deal is because it's not like there's necessarily a first mover advantage when it comes to adopting cloud technologies. Actually, in a lot of ways, the opposite seems to be true. The adoption of new cloud technologies and cloud migrations often leads to an increase in the number of people you need to employ to maintain both your on-premises environment, that didn't actually go anywhere, and your cloud environments. Because frankly, most times the same team can't manage both, and you're not able to make a full migration from your on-premises facility to the cloud. So you're going to need to add people to your staff to manage your cloud environment, or stress out the people you have today, or end up doing both poorly. Also, the migration process, especially in the early days of cloud, was and still is fairly complex and not at all straightforward. It's never as simple as just like taking your virtualized servers and moving them up to the cloud and shutting down your data center. If you don't believe me, let's Google cloud migration consulting and see how many hits we get. This stuff ain't easy, and most organizations end up hiring a consulting group to help them with the migration, especially in the early days of cloud. Lastly, the cost calculators that you saw from a lot of the major cloud providers gave really advantageous pricing to their own cloud, but the reality was somewhat less alluring. Many first movers got stuck in this liminal phase where they're operating a hybrid cloud presence, both on-prem and up in the public cloud, with egress traffic charges to prove it. This is why we saw the rise of things like reserved and spot instances on the cloud providers and dedicated lines back to the data center to avoid some of those egress charges. So I wouldn't worry about the fact that you may not have made a full transition to the cloud or you're just getting started. Another big thing to keep in mind is that a lot of the tools that you were using on premises weren't necessarily cloud ready 5 or 6 years ago. If you had made the jump back then, you'd end up duplicating tools just for the cloud or having a subpar experience with your existing tooling. Fortunately, in the intervening time, a lot of the products have been updated to support all kinds of cloud functionality. And that's a good thing. For all of these reasons, now is actually an opportune time to begin a cloud migration. As we've seen in many major industries, the first mover is often not the most successful. It's actually the second mover who ends up doing better in the long run. And the reason for that is they're able to look at what the first mover did, copy the good parts, and avoid the bad parts. At the same time, the first mover has made a path for others to follow. It's set down standards, and it's forced the hosting providers to make improvements. That means when you go to make your cloud migration or adoption, it's going to be that much easier because the cloud provider already has the services you might expect. The migration tools have improved tremendously to smooth out the workload migration process. The cloud providers know what they need to provide for you, and they didn't necessarily know that 4 or 5 years ago. Cloud cost models have also become more robust and mature, which can help you properly plan and budget for your burgeoning cloud presence. So my point is, now is an excellent time to pursue your cloud migration strategy. You can make a more informed decision from an operational perspective on what you should be migrating to the cloud in the first place. Not everything has to move. The cloud providers themselves are much better situated for a variety of different potential workloads that you may want to migrate. And the tools that you're already using today will most likely continue to work when you make that cloud migration. And if they don't, then it might be a good time to reevaluate your tool set for the cloud era. Maybe, give a listen to some of the vendors you'll be hearing from today as they present their technologies that work both on premises and across the multiple cloud providers that are out there. So, in summary, don't worry, you're not late to the cloud. As a great wizard once said, you're arriving exactly when you mean to. Thank you so much for listening to me today. If you'd like to open a dialogue and share your thoughts, I can be found on Twitter, assuming it still exists, at Ned1313 or on LinkedIn. Thanks again for your time and have a great day.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Ned. Very well said. You made some great points, and I love the reference to the Great Wizard at the end as well. Hey, everyone, I just brought up a poll question on the screen that says, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing IT solutions at your company? And of course, what we're really referring to on this is, cloud tools, cloud products, cloud services. What's your time frame for taking some action? If you learn about an awesome new solution on the event today, is this something that you're interested in taking the next step on in the next 6 months, 12 months, 24 months, or maybe you're not sure? So I'll give everyone a moment to answer that. You should see the poll on the screen, and you answer it right there in the slides window by selecting the option that corresponds, of course, to your answer. All right. Lots of good answers rolling in. Let's get just a couple more. We've got our first presenter here lined up in the green room, ready to go. All right. Thank you for all those poll responses. We've got a lot more great polls coming up, so we always appreciate your participation in those. but it's now time to kick off the MegaCast here with our first presenter. I'm excited now to welcome Guy Alvarenga, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Cloud Security at CrowdStrike. Guy, it's great to have you on. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's a full pleasure to be here, chat in this discussion about cloud. I'm fascinated about cloud. And what I want to cover a little bit is about unified cloud native application security, right? Gartner term, CNAPP, people use, but basically it's a convergence trend that's going on in security that instead of having multiple vendors, multiple solutions for different cloud, on-prem solutions, and everything else, so the idea is consolidating into one unified security to avoid silos. So what can we do to secure applications in the cloud environment? But before we go there, I want to introduce a little bit about CrowdStrike for some of you that are very familiar with our endpoint. We are pretty big on cloud security. We got awarded now by CRN, Frost & Sullivan as the best cloud and application security solution in the market this year, so I'm very excited about that. So here a little bit about us. We're a leader when it comes to clouds. We have cloud-specific indicators of misconfiguration, indicators of attack. We have sensors, the streaming correlation engine. As you can see, we have 7 trillion high fidelity signals per week, petabytes, 140 million plus indicators of attack decisions per second. So we are a full stack cloud native application protection. So we equip SOC teams, development teams with advanced, simple, automated security in one single platform for any cloud. We hear a lot of vendors on the market saying about a unified solution, but then when you see you have a different interface or a different solution basically for endpoints, workload protection, or clouds, here we are one of the vendors that we have one single platform from endpoints to workload, everything that you can do in between. We offer discovery, visibility, and compliance for the cloud. Also, we protect workloads, hosts, containers across clouds and any cloud. So moving to the next slide. So we see 3 broad categories for threats. One of them is runtime threats. The second one is development and supply chain. And another threat that is very common right now and is one of the most common as well is cloud misconfiguration. So the runtime threats, they target workloads, virtual machines, computer instance, either for resource hacking, data theft, lateral movement. And then we have on the development and supply chain, which those threats target the components that make up the cloud-native applications and now the results of lacking shift-left security, which means bringing security into the development cycle, and that can result in runtime incident later on, slow down development process. And then another one that is pretty common also is cloud misconfiguration threats. They can be intentional or unintentional. They make up for most highly publicized data breaches today that we see on the news. So despite of those categories of threats, many of the cloud security incidents, we respond to include elements of each. So sometimes you're going to see an attack that will have multiple of those. Threats are evolving. The adversary is evolving. They are steady, they're determined, they are fast, and that's why we have this adversary-first approach. Often I ask people ask me about why why the characters, why this focus on the adversaries. And the reason is they are fast, they are determined, they are steady. There is a new attack surface, new operational gaps pursue when you're jumping on the clouds, new tactics, techniques, procedures, the same way that technology is evolving. Threat actors and adversaries, as we call, also are evolving. I put a link there that if you click on that, you will be able to go into our global threat report. You can see the top types of threats it's coming on the market. So you're more than welcome to just take your camera, click there, and be able to see these. And the attacks, when they come into system, they involve data and control plane, most of the attacks. And from there, it gets the initial access there. That's why cloud security posture management is so important, and be able to have compliance and security tools to address that, least privileges or something on that. Because then they will come, they execute, they will be persistent inside your system, and then they are going to move on to their lateral movement. They start giving credentials and permissions for the new accounts that they are creating inside the system. So we have here the runtime, the data plane, control plane. So about the Falcon platform, we are pretty big on the shift left development. So let's talk about this. So when you're talking about application security and convergency, you need cloud workload protection, agent-based. You need cloud security posture management with agent solutions, and you also need identity protection. So I will put here. So engineer security and vulnerability is out of the goal of shift left. So our agentless image security can integrate with CI/CD pipeline on the development of the app and provide detection, container misconfiguration, malware, vulnerabilities, secrets. And even without the CI/CD pipeline integration, your security operations team, they can leverage image registry scanning to identify insecure container images, map out the running containers. And then after enabling shift left for DevSecOps, then you need the visibility. Visibility is a huge issue across clouds. So cloud control plane visibility for compliance and misconfiguration across all major clouds, we offer that. And we combine with real-time indications of attacks and indications of new configuration on the cloud control plane. Can detect and respond for intentional misconfigurations, behavior. All of this extension of visibility from the development all the way to runtime and across clouds. And all of this without the running agency, right? We extend across public, private clouds. And as last line of defense, CrowdStrike agents deliver game-changing runtime protection for virtual machines, containers, serverless. It has cloud-friendly licensing, runtime detections. It's very uncommon on the industry for security to be able to offer agentless and agent-based protection. So we cover both sides. And it's important for people to be aware of to address the misconfigurations, the human error issues that you can have, but also protect your workloads, your codes, your Kubernetes. So moving on, I'm sorry with the slides here. I'm clicking and it's a little animated here. So what is CrowdStrike approach for CNAPP or for application security? So we are adversary first. Like you're saying, we identify 170 plus adversaries tracked. We have 80,000 breaches prevented this year. 1+ trillions of events per day, 135 millions of IOAs, right? Attacks, decisions per minute. CrowdStrike Security Cloud is the world's largest unified threat intelligence. It combines machine learning, behavior analytics, threat hunting, 24/7 cloud threat hunting, which is, I don't know other vendor in the market that do that as well. And we reduce the attack surface. We are the only vendors that do IOA for the cloud. Compliance. Most vendors, they rely heavily on rules engines and behavior analysis. And we do real-time detection and response with the leader security-focused compliance. One major thing that I mentioned before is the importance of having that security consistency across endpoints, workloads, everything in between. And unlike big vendors on the market, we are unified and integrated one single platform. We simplify security consistent and its consistency across the entire organization. Endpoints, workloads, everywhere. So we blend cloud intelligence with runtime insights for the best view of the threat surface. We have fully managed cloud workload protection, cloud threat hunting. We are the first and only really fully managed cloud workload protection out there in the market. We deliver 24/7 expert security management, threat hunting, monitoring. We have prevention warranty. And also we have the agentless scanning with agent-based protection. That is one of our biggest differentiator and something that the customer needs to be attentive to have that piece of the misconfiguration, but also with runtimes. So we do contextualized and actionable security insights on workloads and containers. That helps also with fast investigation, response, threat hunting. And that covers a lot, because then when you have an integrated security across the entire cloud lifecycle and entire organization, really, you have the visibility, the image security, admissions, control plane, runtime, or I would say anything from cloud workload protection, security posture management, and also identity protection. So that will finish our presentation on my side, but thank you for the opportunity. If anyone have any questions, just let me know.
Absolutely, yeah, great presentation, Guy. We do have some questions for you from the audience. While we take those questions, I'm just going to bring up a poll for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the CrowdStrike solution? And we do want to get your feedback on this poll. There's a number of different options. Feel free to select one or even multiple. And thank you for your response. So let's see, first question that came in here, I'll just start with this one. They're asking, a lot of the security breaches that happen have to do with configuration errors. Can CrowdStrike help to eliminate some of these configuration errors? Guy, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was on the mute here. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, our top recommendation is to look into, we do offer that, and look into CSPM, or Cloud Security Posture Management solution. Well, cloud is complex, right? It's fluid, it's dynamic. And if you don't know what or who is doing what, misconfigurations can remain undetected for days, weeks, and our solution gives you the visibility in the cloud for continually monitoring risks in the whole cloud. We automated prevention, detection, prediction of where the risks may appear next.
Absolutely.
Do you see that
absolutely.
as well?
Using CrowdStrike to help prevent.
In general. Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's posture management. That is how we address. And the way that we do in CrowdStrike, on top of identifying and giving that visibility, we also remediate those.
Smart. Okay. Yeah, I like that. That could help a lot of companies out there to be more secure and prevent some of these really bad malicious attacks we're seeing, in the news. Let's see. Next question. They want to know, how are you seeing people implement changes in their organization to try to prevent human errors and misconfiguration?
Yeah, that's so. Developers, they always have this tricky balance between speed, delivered application, and also keep security on track, right? So organizations start addressing and wave better security into the developer's workflow, what we call adopting shift-left security, which, so when you shift left security, you bring security into the application development process. That way, vulnerable codes, you're able to identify those things during development instead of the testing phase. So over time, you just reduce costs addressing those issues from bringing security into the development lifecycle.
Excellent. Yeah. And there's, let's see, this is a good question.
Other ways also that it's very that we can do is a concept of least privilege access. So giving the employer, giving an organization just enough administrator or just what they need to complete their job. Because sometimes when you give over-permissive access into the cloud, also you can have other misconfiguration issues that can happen later on.
Absolutely. Yeah, those misconfiguration issues can be huge security holes. We've seen a lot of that. This is a good question here from Ricardo.
And this is scary. Like coming on that piece too, another point there is, so when you are using a public cloud, we have the shared responsibility module, which is it states that anything related, so the cloud providers could be Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud. They are responsible for securing the infrastructure, but there is any problem of misconfiguration or access, that's the responsibility of the customer. And misconfiguration is a big deal. So
absolutely. Yeah, here's a good question from Ricardo. He's asking about healthcare companies, medical companies. He says at his company they have to have documentation for regulatory agency audits like the FDA. Yeah. Can CrowdStrike help with any sort of compliance validation?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We have a huge compliance to support healthcare as well. And, if, or really anything on the auditing side for reporting for security. Healthcare is a big deal. And as far as threats, is very targeted as well. So to have an idea, a little off topic, but to buy in the dark web, for example, personal information of someone is about $150, $160 per person. And when you're talking about patient's information, it's skyrocket for like $400, $500 per patient. It's a lot. And we do have on our compliance and reporting for specific for healthcare, and also help the teams with the policies that they can implement internally.
Very nice. Yeah, that could help a lot of companies out there who have to deal with compliance and meet compliance. Here's another interesting question. They want to know if CrowdStrike does NDR, or network detection and response.
Yeah, we do that. Again, we have a unified platform that we work from endpoint to the cloud, and also we do have MDR for cloud.
Excellent. What about when CrowdStrike Falcon detects changes, does it have some way to know whether those changes are normal or if they're malicious somehow?
Yeah, we have different alerts that we send, and will be flagged based on severity, and we also can auto remediate many of them as well. But yeah, we categorize them. I can show on the platform how we do, but we give the full visibility, and we also alert and categorize the different misconfigurations and attacks, severity level.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that sounds like a great opportunity for someone to get a personal demo and see this, for themselves.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We can reach out for us for that. And also, we are doing now what we call Falcon Encounter. Every Wednesday, we have to go to our website and look for Falcon Encounter. Is a hands-on experience where you can actually play and have a feel of the solution, how we show visibility, how we show security from endpoint to cloud, or security posture, workload protection.
Very nice. And I think you answered the second part of this question already, which is when Falcon identifies perhaps a malicious change, can it be remediated? And you said yes, right?
Oh yeah, we do have auto remediation. Yeah.
Nice. What about does CrowdStrike? They're wanting to know here. I'm trying to read this question. When it comes to testing CrowdStrike, how do we know? What sort of testing strategy would you recommend for someone who wanted to try this out and kind of see it in action? Do you do some sort of trial program where they can test it in their own environment?
Absolutely. We can do also, absolutely. We could provide also a security checkup, security assessment, where we can work with the customer and be able to show them, in their environment, how they can have a feel and be able to play with the product. And we can identify that checkup with all the things, the misconfigurations we can detect, show them what's going on with the misconfiguration, with the coding, with the image registry access.
Great. All right. Well, so what should folks do to get started with CrowdStrike? Any recommendations there?
Yeah. Come to our website, or if you already have a CrowdStrike account manager, reach out. A good way also to do is when you come and you put request a demo, is a great way to, so when you click there and you put that information, our security architects and specialists will reach out to you within 24 hours, and we schedule time to understand the needs of the customer and show how we can collaborate and help stop, or how we can stop the breaches.
Excellent. Yeah. So many companies need better security. They got to stop these breaches before they happen. So seems like a great solution.
Yeah, and I think one thing that is very important for to think about is this new trend that's going on as far as security convergence, because it's very common when an organization grows, they start adding the different security solutions for this piece that is growing, and it's a huge security gap. The silos in between those different solutions that you have could be, for example, like on the cloud, if you have CSPM separated from workload protection and for time, or when you're talking about on-prem security and have a different solutions for the cloud side, or if you have multiple clouds, you have Azure, you have AWS. The gap in between, because each of them has their own standards, it's huge. So being able to consolidate is a good suggestion for anyone and a good direction that the market is going for streamlining security across the whole space.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. All right. Well, yeah, I'm afraid we're running out of time here in our Q&A presentation and slot. So we're going to have to wrap up, but I really appreciate your presentation. I learned a lot. I know the audience did as well. Thank you so much for being on the MegaCast today.
Absolutely. If anyone also want to have any questions, feel free to find me on LinkedIn or reach out also to our cloud specialists, and we're here to help.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Guy, and thank you to CrowdStrike for supporting the event today. Check out the Handouts tab. It's there that you'll find a link to download the CrowdStrike Cloud Security Solution Brief. It's got additional information beyond what you learned on the presentation today, so make sure that you check that one out. And with that, it's now my pleasure to announce actually our first Amazon $500 gift card. This is going out to Larry Myers from Maryland. Congratulations, Larry Myers from Maryland. All right, and with that, it's now time for our next set of presenters here on the MegaCast today. I'm excited now to welcome Irvin Guerrera, Solutions Marketing Manager, and Stefan Goodrill, Senior Technical Marketing Manager for Cloud, both from Gigamon. Irvin and Stephen, take it away.
All righty. Hey, David and Jess, thank you so much for the introduction and for having us at this amazing event today. Hi, everyone. It's extremely nice to meet you. Hope you've enjoyed today's event thus far. My name is Irvin Guerrero, Solutions Marketer here at Gigamon, and along with my counterpart, Stephen, we will be talking to you about how you can deliver a successful cloud experience for your organization. For today's agenda, we're keeping it nice and light for you to get the most out of today's session. And what we'll do is we'll start with a quick Gigamon overview to introduce ourselves. We'll then go into the different components of what goes into delivering a successful cloud experience. We'll then start with talking about what's needed, current challenges standing in the way, how you can use Gigamon to deliver a successful cloud experience, and the limitations of using only logs for monitoring and security strategies. We'll then wrap it all up together with a quick summary to complete today's session. For those of you that do not know about Gigamon, our story began around 20 years ago, give or take, 20 years ago, helping organizations gain visibility into their on-premise infrastructures through a combination of test access points or TAPs, aggregators, and network packet brokers. These components were used to access east to west data from the network and broker it to security and visibility tools. Since then, we have helped some of the biggest organizations you can think of. And because of our customer base, we have experience dealing with some of the most complex infrastructures you can think of and have provided them with complete visibility for their monitoring and security needs on premise. A few years ago, we began to notice how our customers were rolling out cloud strategies as interest in public and private cloud began to rise. And upon noticing this, we began to refactor our solution to provide customers with visibility into their private and public cloud environments as well. Same capabilities once only offered on-prem were then rolled out to cover the cloud as well. Today, our solution provides customers with deep visibility into their hybrid and multi-cloud environments to help them deliver a successful cloud experience for the broader organization. So what is needed to deliver a successful cloud experience? In reality, the answer to this question will vary from person to person and from organization to organization. In our opinion, it comes down to two things: performance and security. On the performance side, organizations need to make sure that their hybrid cloud infrastructure stays up and running. Slow running applications and infrastructure downtime are both factors that lead to a bad user experience for any organization. We can take it a level deeper and say that these factors negatively influence employee productivity, which ultimately costs a pretty penny for any organization, since labor is an organization's biggest cost. But for the sake of today's session, we'll keep it high level and reference how slow running applications and infrastructure downtime presents a bad cloud experience for users. On the security side, organizations need to stay secure for the sake of protecting company assets, employees, and customers. And all it takes is a single breach for organizations to lose critical data and lose customer confidence. This is why it's important to develop a security strategy that keeps them safe, but also does not negatively impact the user experience in the cloud. Security is very much a crucial component to delivering successful cloud experience and is at the core of any um, cloud experience that's being delivered. And to be frank, delivering a successful cloud experience is extremely hard to do. Organizations are trying to secure and keep application performance up while dealing with the complete lack of visibility into all east to west traffic. North to south traffic is visible through components like firewalls, but what about visibility into all the data in motion? What happens when a threat actor makes it past your firewall? For most organizations, there is no way to identify security risks once they have made it past their firewall. While issues like Log4j and ransomware are the talk of today, there will definitely be more. And unfortunately, it will be difficult to address these challenges with current end-to-end security strategies. Rolling out a security strategy is a nightmare because of the ever-changing threat landscape. Finally, it's no secret that organizations are struggling with the cloud shared security model. And as most of you may already know, cloud providers are in charge of keeping the infrastructure of cloud instances running, and customers are in charge of keeping their cloud environment performing and secure. Because of this, organizations oftentimes face security challenges that have never been in their domain due to the rapid adoption of cloud technologies. And it has led to security breaches mostly caused by employees incorrectly setting up different cloud components due to their own lack of knowledge. And the reality is, it's hard to deliver a successful cloud experience when you have to monitor and secure every little thing that is going on across your on prem, private cloud, and public cloud environments, regardless of how comfortable you are in the cloud. There's so much to cover, but you still need complete visibility to secure and monitor your entire infrastructure to prevent performance or security issues from occurring. In this model here, we can see some of the difficulties that organizations are experiencing when trying to gain complete visibility. First off, organizations are dealing with siloed environments, all with their own logging, their own storage, and each environment comes with its own cost to migrate data to monitoring and security tools. Second, mirroring services can only have one destination. And this forces organizations to set up an agent per tool per environment, which is frankly extremely hard to manage. Third, everything is siloed. There is a lack of cohesive visibility across all environments, creating visibility blind spots, sorry, since you're constantly having to pivot from environment to environment to environment. And on top of all of this, logging hasn't really changed in recent years. Nobody knows what applications and the data that is in motion because logging can only tell you that something is in motion, but not exactly what it is, leading to a reactive form of monitoring. At Gigamon, we offer a solution that helps organizations establish complete visibility across their entire infrastructure, not just cloud. And this allows for organizations to eliminate blind spots and and dive deeper into what's happening across their infrastructure, helping them deliver a successful hybrid cloud experience for their organization. With Gigamon, organizations can first eliminate the silos and monitor what's happening across all their environments using a single UI. Organizations can eliminate blind spots across the board and reduce the 4 individual conversations coming out of each siloed environment, one for AWS, one for Azure, one for on-prem, one for private cloud, into a single one across their entire infrastructure. This helps with limiting the noise and pinpointing issues faster. Second, organizations can access east to west traffic, not just north to south, allowing them to understand what is currently happening within their infrastructure, not just what comes in and out. Third, organizations can use a single Gigamon agent or native mirroring to send data acquired to many tools rather than just a single one. And fourth, organizations can leverage metadata into what's happening across the board. It's no secret that logging has its limitations. Gigamon adds another layer of intelligence that helps organizations establish a truly secure security strategy. Not only does Gigamon help organizations with accessibility, remember you can only secure what you can see, but we also add a layer of intelligence on top of your log data strategy to help establish an effective security strategy, ultimately leading you to deliver a successful cloud experience to your organization. The combination of your log data strategy plus the added layer of intelligence Gigamon can provide is what we refer to as deep observability. And with deep observability, you can access any workload across your entire infrastructure, broker it to the tool that needs to see it, and transform it using capabilities like deduplication and SSL, TLS decryption to only supply tools with the data they need to see. This altogether helps teams deliver a successful cloud experience for their organization. When it comes to logging versus Gigamon, Melt data is great for getting deep information into each host, but it, of course, has its limitations. Understanding CPU consumption and managing memory are challenges with logging. Melt only provides information about managed hosts, not unmanaged hosts. And logs can be tampered. This is usually one of the first steps for any attacker once they get in. Again, Melt data is great and does offer organizations invaluable information into what's happening, but it's not enough for keeping organizations secure and helping teams keep application performance up to par. To dive into how deep observability helps organizations deliver a successful cloud experience, I'll hand the baton off to Stephen.
Thank you. Next slide. Yes, enhancing your cloud security posture with deep observability. So deep observability, we can break it down into two main parts. One is tracking the conversation between different cloud providers or on-prem. Instead of having multiple log entries, you would have just one. So we can see the conversation end to end. And the second part is we can tell you the nature of the conversation or what was actually in it. So traffic over non-standard ports is a big use case. We're able to detect botnets, crypto mining, ciphers that are in flight. We can tell you which applications are actually on the wire. Next slide, please. So cloud logging records a lot, but as we pointed out earlier, that the nature of logging, VPC flow logs and things like that hasn't really changed in the last 15 plus years. It still tells you conversations took place. It still tells you source destination port. We're not here to try to replace that at all. It makes sense to use that. However, we need to see the applications that are in flight, the nature of the traffic. So we provide some deep packet inspection. So next slide, please. So I'm going to do a quick demonstration of cloud visibility. So what we have done is we've set up an Amazon machine image of Ubuntu. We've given it an internet gateway. We've set up an SSH daemon running on port 443, and then we SSH to it on port 443 because 443 is almost always open. So go to the next slide. So the Amazon VPC flow log, this is their format, and as you can see, the areas in red is our source address and our source port, 25061. And with that, we SSH to port 443 in AWS on our Ubuntu machine image. Go to the next slide, please. So what did that Linux distro see? Well, we did a netstat -a once we were connected, and as you can see, it shows us the correct IP and the port 25061. However, the workstation is misidentifying the traffic. It's reporting it as HTTPS, even though it's SSH. So if you're relying on log data, we've already have a potential false negative. Next slide, please. So when we check with the Gigamon Deep Observability, what did it see? Well, it saw that it was SSH'd over a non-standard port. And this is because we do traffic acquisition and deep packet inspection of the traffic. We're not replacing the logs, but we're giving you richer context to the nature of the traffic. So non-standard ports would be common with botnets and malware. And I would consider this an indicator of compromise. Now, cloud logging will record this. However, it won't raise any kind of alarms or flags for it. Next slide, please. So we get unprecedented visibility anywhere we're deployed. We can be deployed in multi-cloud, private cloud, on-prem. You often do not need to re-architect your cloud design. And we're very good at capturing east-west traffic. Next slide, please. So we're going to go into some use cases. The first one is compliance, and this is some traffic that we have observed in the cloud. And one of the common use cases we have is seeing which TLS ciphers are in flight. In this case, one of the top fourth talker is RC4. So RC4 was deprecated in 2015, and even if you're fairly certain that you have secured your workloads, part of the TLS negotiation is you can potentially negotiate a lower strength cipher. So next slide, please. So in compliance, our second compliance example is we have detected server message blocker SMB traffic version 1.0 in flight in the cloud. This is often used for file transfers. And even if you have, once again, secured your workloads, it is possible that you can negotiate a lower version when you're initiating these connections. And as we know, SMB version 1 is susceptible to WannaCry. So now visibility naturally, or observability naturally pivots into security. In this case, we also have a security dashboard. It's not that different to detect applications or bad stuff, because bad stuff is simply applications we don't want. In this case, we detected some CISA custom malware, and then Eternal Blue exploitation, which would be SMB version 1, and then we see a Trojan being downloaded. So if we check the IP address 10.10.31.101, and then we check a different dashboard we have of internal hosts using deprecated ciphers, and number one is 10.10.31.101. Now, is this cause or is this effect? We don't know, but we're practically watching an attack chain in progress. So next slide, please. So our second use case in observability is detecting crypto mining. Crypto mining has to phone home somehow. It has to identify itself somehow. They often use non-standard ports. They'll do DNS queries to servers outside of the normal infrastructure. And we can detect that. In this case, we've detected a crypto miner by its CNC. Next slide. Oh, and troubleshooting. So another use case outside of security is seeing if you're having problems with your traffic. In this case, we've detected a significant increase in 400s errors from web servers. So this will help you troubleshoot or pinpoint problems in the cloud. Another thing we can do is we can help detect the dreaded network is slow ticket. In this case, we've detected that it takes up to almost over 7-second round trip for certain hosts in the cloud to reach certain sites. So this lets us know that it's not an internal problem. This is just something going on the internet.
Yeah, and in summary, establishing an effective cloud security posture is a major challenge. And as things become a lot more difficult to not only secure, but also to gain that full observability across an entire infrastructure, organizations need a way to be able to not only gain access to everything that's going on in their infrastructure, but to also deliver a way to really establish that secure posture. And here at Gigamon, we are able to add the ability to analyze what's happening in traffic across everywhere, and feed that data to security and observability tools, empowering your security posture. And with that, I would like to thank Jess and the actual tech team for giving us the opportunity, and to you for giving us the time to present and partake in this journey with you.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much to Stephen and to Erwin for that awesome presentation and for joining us here on the MegaCast today. We have a lot of great questions coming in already, and I want to get to as many of those as we can.
Yep.
So let's dive into some Q&A.
Sign us up.
Let's do it.
I think this is a good place to start here. Is Gigamon an EDR?
No. In short, no, absolutely not. No. So we do not replace any EDR or endpoint protection that you have. Our detection mechanisms are capturing traffic in flight. So if you have a compromised thread or something running on that endpoint, you still need your normal EDR detection. So we complement those solutions. We don't really compete.
Okay, perfect. So how about this one? Is Gigamon security in the cloud?
Yes, by nature of having observability and being able to see traffic, we can see bad traffic as well as good traffic. We can also see unknown traffic. Now, we're not going to act upon that traffic, but we can definitely be part of a threat response team or some other kind of detection.
Awesome. All right. Now, I know that we are running a little bit short on time here, but I'm going to sneak this question in because I love it. I want to make sure I ask it. If there was one thing that really makes Gigamon stand out in your mind, what is that one key unique? What is that one differentiator?
For me, it's the end-to-end traffic visibility. Nobody is really solving for this in the cloud. At least on a deep packet inspection level. So you have lots of logs that tell you the traffic's in flight, but we can tell you the nature of the traffic without you having to really re-architect your existing infrastructure.
Awesome. Irvin, did you have something you want to add? Do you have something that's your favorite?
Agreed.
Unique?
No, spot on exactly with what Steven said. Yeah. He said exactly what I was going to say, just a million times better. So shout out to you, Steven.
All right. Well, Irvin, while I've got you, if someone out there has absolutely just fallen in love with Gigamon and they are ready to jump in and get started, or they want to learn a little bit more, what's their first step? What do they do?
Yeah. So one of the ways that folks can contact us is by emailing us directly. So that's Steven's email. My email, Steven's email would be the easiest way to contact us. Now, another way that, especially for folks that are looking to get a demo going or looking to speak to a sales rep just to learn a little bit more about the product, they can access gigamon.com directly. And within gigamon.com, we have links to contact us, talk to a specific sales rep or an account manager in their region, and so forth. So I guess number one would be contact us personally. We're both very open and very nice, easy to talk to. And then second one would be to just access the website directly and to place a ticket from there, or to contact us from there.
Well, I can definitely attest to that. You guys are an absolute pleasure to chat with. So definitely, to anyone out there in the audience, reach out to Irvin, to Steven, to the Gigamon team. Thank you both so much for being here with us today and for taking some time to answer a few audience questions. And with that, I think, David, we will hand things on back over to you. Take it away.
Thanks, Jess.
All right. Thank you so much, Jess. And thank you to our experts from Gigamon. Really great presentation, great discussion. This sounds like a solution that could help a lot of companies out there to get that complete visibility. I do want to point out that I just brought up a poll question. You should see it on the screen now. It says, what additional information would you like about the Gigamon solution? We want to get your feedback on this poll. Would you like some additional technical details? Maybe a customer case study about a company in your vertical or your industry that's implemented this, pricing details, specifically how it would work, maybe your own personal demo where you can get all your questions answered. Perhaps you'd like to try it for yourself in your own environment. We want to get your feedback. So I'll leave that poll question up here for a few moments while we announce our first grand prize winner. Let's get the randomizer ready here. All right, our first grand prize winner on the event today for a Microsoft Surface 5 laptop. This is going to Jay Dibble from Tennessee. Congratulations, Jay Dibble from Tennessee. And then our second gift card for another Amazon gift card. This is going out to Elab Solomon from Ohio. Congratulations, Elab Solomon from Ohio. All right, if you haven't answered the poll now, this is the time to do it because we're about to move on here to our next presentation, but we do want to get your feedback so that we can pass that along to Gigamon. And I should point out we've got 4 more Microsoft Surface Laptop 5s to give away, and by my count, 6 more Amazon $500 gift cards. And of course, don't forget about our best question prizes as well. All right, thank you to everyone who responded there to the poll question. And I see Elhab Solomon says, woohoo, in the questions pane there, who just won our Amazon $500 gift card. Congrats. That'll be some good holiday spending money there. All right, let's move on now to our next presentation on the MegaCast. I'm excited now to bring on Robert West, who is an inside sales engineer at Rubrik. Robert, it's great to have you on the MegaCast today. Take it away.
Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Robert West. I'm a sales engineer here at Rubrik, based out of Austin, Texas. Today, we're going to be discussing Rubrik's offerings for securing your cloud environments. All right, so here are some of the objectives I'm going to talk you through in regards to some of the key challenges you may be facing when it comes to data protection in the cloud. Then we'll talk about how Rubrik can step in and help. At the end of the presentation, I'll walk you through a brief tour of our Polaris platform, where we make all this possible from a single pane of glass. First things first, let's do a brief level set on Rubrik and the core value proposition of our platform, where it really all begins. First, we modernize the way that traditional legacy backup is done through our single scale out software fabric approach built on a 2U 4-node hyperconverged appliance on-prem, which drastically consolidates and simplifies the way that core backup is done. We support all enterprise apps for this workflow with an API-first platform that is secure and flexible to automate, driven essentially by our SLAs. Out of the box, it's natively immutable through our append-only Atlas file system. So once data is written to Rubrik, it can't be edited, overwritten, encrypted, etc. We also provide a logical air gap by not presenting Rubrik over the network via standard network protocols like NFS or SMB. Instead, every communication is done with secure APIs. Second, what we will mostly be talking about today is that our platform natively extends to the cloud. Our software was designed in the cloud era with cloud in mind, where we can dynamically move data to the cloud, spin things up in the cloud, take a VM and archive it to the cloud, and protect cloud native assets. Last but not least, where we're going and our vision as a company is to deliver additional business value beyond just the core backup layer. We provide additional insights with use cases like cyber resiliency and data governance by making use of the backup metadata that we ingest. So think of monitoring snapshots for any anomalous changes or finding out exactly where sensitive data like credit cards and social security numbers might be out in the open. And we also provide you with threat hunting capabilities so that our customers can scan existing snapshots for indicators of compromise to help signal when an infection likely started in the first place. And that's the core platform in general. But let's jump back in and why we're here. And that is to talk about the cloud and the challenges to managing and protecting that data. So here's a checklist and what we're trying to solve for here. 3 things. The first, quite fitting for today, is figuring out how do I solve for the cloud. We find that enterprises are trying to solve for data management in a hybrid architecture. So that means they're adopting new cloud platforms and even deploying multiple cloud platforms to achieve a lot of different things unique to that specific organization. Secondly, customers we talk to are trying to make it easier to run their digital estate. Automation is a key tenet to our operational efficiencies. So when thinking about your next data management solution, it's something that must be easy to automate and integrate into your existing environment. Last, but certainly not least, is tackling the security risk. Data security and being able to recover from ransomware plus data governance are top of mind for really everyone. A data management solution would be incomplete if it did not provide recovery capabilities for cyber attacks and region failures. Another problem that comes into play and has to do with the shared responsibility model, where one part of the setup is the responsibility of the cloud provider, and another part of it is the responsibility of the customer. But no matter what, when it comes to security, it's always going to fall in the lap of the customer. And because of that, they're seeking out well-architected cloud solutions. And because of this, it can become especially tricky if you're hybrid, multi-cloud, or operating at an enormous scale, whether it's infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, or software as a service apps. And here's the main challenge for those with existing workloads in the cloud. A typical cloud architecture often involves tens, if not hundreds, of different account subscriptions across many different clouds and regions, which combined with manual job scheduling or painful scripting, it can really drain the productivity from IT teams. In the field, we're hearing from some of our prospects that they're having to set up all these different components around things like retention and frequency, then having to deploy resources within multiple regions for each account, where now you have to manage backup schemes across all these different regions. However, at Rubrik, we can help you solve this and ensure that your data is backed up and protected no matter where it sits in the cloud. Our platform can tie in regardless of where your organization is in its cloud journey, whether you're 90% on-prem and have a deadline to be in the cloud in the next 6 to 12 months, or you're born in the cloud and building all your apps there. So, we can definitely extend security and governance to the cloud for you. Our customers are all on a journey to the cloud, and thus far, this is what we have helped them solve. Rubrik makes it easy to archive backup data to low-cost storage in the cloud. We can also help orchestrate their existing applications into the cloud to accelerate their move away from on-premise infrastructure. And we also help to ensure their new cloud native workloads are protected. First up, archival. Most customers, if they have an on-prem data center and have replaced a legacy solution with Rubrik, will take an archive of their backup data and send it to the public cloud, maybe something like an AWS S3 bucket or Azure Blob. Our technology does incremental forever in the archive piece. So it's efficient with how we're placing the data in the cloud bucket. We can also automate that lifecycle of how the data tiers and when it tiers based on policies and storage class. This is all controlled within our SLA policy domain to dictate when and where you want your data archived. Because again, of all the metadata and how it's indexed, it's searchable. And if you need to pull back data out of the archive with our software, you can retrieve singular files without pulling the whole VM back. So if you had an archive living in an S3 IA infrequent access bucket, but maybe there's a document you've been asked to pull from 3 months ago, which is no longer in production, it's in the backup. Or let's say you want to set up an SLA policy that says you want to take snapshots every 6 hours, keep that data local on the appliance for 30 days, but then you also have a retention requirement of 2 years. You can then set up the SLA policy to reflect this need, so data after it's been retained locally for 30 days can automatically get pushed up to the least expensive tier in the cloud. We also, of course, offer end-to-end encryption, 256-bit at rest and at flight. Next up, cloud instantiation. This is a feature of ours that we call Cloud On, which is only available currently for AWS and Azure. Customers protecting their on-prem workloads using Rubrik usually implement this for things like disaster recovery, app migration, or an accelerated test dev environment from their existing snapshots on the appliance. Technically speaking, what this does is it supports conversion on an on-prem VM to an EC2 instance in AWS or a VM in Azure, irrespective of whether if the snapshot's available locally on the brick or has already been archived to AWS or Azure. It does this by converting the VMDK to an AMI for AWS or VHD for Azure, from which an instance can be launched in the cloud. Rubrik supports 2 workflows for converting and instantiating an on-premise VM in the cloud. We can do it on demand, providing flexibility of a good RPO, as an end user can go back in time on any snapshot and hit the launch in the cloud button, or you could choose to schedule this conversion. Once that is enabled, the cloud on job will execute every 2 hours by default and convert the latest snapshot, last point in time snapshot to that particular image format. Last up is cloud native protection. This is delivered as a service based snapshotting tool available through Polaris GPS, which we'll touch on, which I'll show you here in a bit. This software is used to protect workloads that are infrastructure as a service or platform as a service in the cloud. Because some customers, after they've lifted and shifted or they built things cloud native, they want to make sure that they can provide the same level of governance and security. First of all, for this capability, it's software as a service from a configuration standpoint. There's no running resources like compute nodes or anything like that in your cloud account. All we're doing is connecting via API from our console, which is an aggregation of metadata. It's a control plane, if you will. We connect from that control plane via API to your cloud account, and you're off and running. Implementation usually only takes several minutes. So it's very quick to set up and consume. For scalable protection, we offer the ability to create a policy that spans hundreds of thousands of resources in the cloud by simply telling what kind of RPO and RTO you want. For instance, you could say, I want to be able to back up all of my cloud resources, whether it's RDS workloads or EC2 once a day. I want to retain that data for 15 days and then archive it out somewhere else. You could set that policy up and the software handles the entire backup and recovery process. We take a lot of the manual work out of having to go configure all these different components in the cloud. And 90% of the clients we talk to tell us that their cloud teams are launching and building things in the cloud really fast. And most times it's challenging for them to get a baseline backup and be able to prove to both themselves and internal and external stakeholders that the data is protected. And through the SLA domain, it makes it very easy to always ensure that you have a baseline backup. From a recovery standpoint, it's near zero RTO, just several clicks to recover. You can recover things across region and account in the cloud. Everything is searchable, and we present you with that data back very quickly. In terms of security, a logical air gap provides protection from ransomware, keeping your backups data isolated and safe in the case of compromise. And from a usability standpoint, we purposely developed a no-brainer approach. We have a point-and-click multi-cloud dashboard experience that the operator can go into, derive reporting from, have visibility, plain and simple, in a way that some native tooling from cloud provider cannot do. And then from the cloud builders or DevOps folks, we have the ability to deploy this as a code with a dedicated Terraform provider like we talked about earlier. So you can auto provision Rubrik up and down as you're launching cloud templates across different resources in AWS and Azure. It's really flexible in how to manage, and that's our cloud native protection at a high level. Lastly, I do want to show that we cover and protect a broad range of workloads, the most popular being EC2 instances, Azure VMs, VMware Cloud, SQL, and M365, just to name a few. We actually announced back in August of last year that we teamed up with Microsoft to co-engineer some projects with them, which in fact included backing up and protecting M365, which includes, of course, Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. It's all derived as a service, and the backups are hosted inside our own Azure tenant, providing customers with that logical air gap and the operational freedom that comes with Rubrik managing that setup end to end. I would actually love to show you this real quick when we jump into Polaris. And having said that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into Polaris GPS really quickly. Bear with me for a second, folks. So this is Polaris GPS. This is that SaaS-based platform that I've been talking about. Think of it as the manager of managers as it pertains to Rubrik. It's pulling in all the telemetry data that you're protecting with the Rubrik, whether it be on-prem or cloud native for Azure, AWS, GCP, or SaaS-based for M365. So for OneDrive, Exchange, SharePoint, and Teams, to give you a single aggregated view of your entire environment that you're protecting with Rubrik. As it pertains to M365 or cloud native, it's very easy to set up. So we're going to go to our M365 offering here. You would click Add Subscription, put in your global admin permissions for OneDrive, SharePoint, Exchange, and Teams. At no point would we store those credentials. We use modern authentication, so OAuth 2.0, to create that secure sync with your M365 estate. And at that point, you start creating these SLAs and protecting these particular objects. So I'm going to go ahead and go to assign SLA domain. For the sake of this demo, I'm just going to assign an SLA or show you the process of assigning an SLA just to Exchange. But know that you can assign a single SLA across all the objects in M365. You can also get very granular and assign it at the user level as well. So we're going to click Next. Out of the solution, you'll have a gold, a silver, and a bronze SLA, but you can certainly create your own. And I'll walk you through that workflow right now. We're going to click Create. And then on the left, we're going to be looking at RPOs. On the right, we're going to look at retention. So with M365, we can take snapshots every 4 hours. So say we want to hang on to that for 3 days, let's say a daily, hang on to that for 30 days, let's say a monthly for 12 months. Again, this is completely customizable based on your requirements. We're then going to click Next, review the SLA. If everything looked good, we click Create, and we would start protecting that environment or that Exchange object. From a recovery standpoint, it's super easy. The workflow is the same, whether it's on-prem, M365 or cloud native. You're going to be presented with this this calendar view here in a second when I go to the user that I want to recover. And then we see the SLA that's assigned to this particular user, which again can be at the object level or the user level. So if we go back to, let's say, the 12th and we want to recover, click Recover. We can either recover Aaron's entire mailbox to himself or to another user if Aaron has exited the organization, or we can crack open his mailbox and recover specific components. We also have the ability to provide you with a Google-like search functionality to search based on the actual title of the email or attachment to locate that specific email and then provide you with various recovery options as well, the same recovery options. Original user to another user. Later this year, you also have the ability to download locally to your browser. That workflow is very similar across the board, whether it's Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, or Teams. We do have we have that download locally option for OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. And again, that's on the roadmap for Exchange. As it pertains to cloud native, let's go to all, and we can see all the objects we're currently protecting within this Rubrik demo environment. So I'll just choose Azure specifically for the sake of this demo. Obviously, we protect VMs and applications, SQL databases, as well as managed SQL instances. And with these two offerings here, we provide point-in-time recovery, getting you down to the second, granularity when it comes to recover. Again, very easy to set up. You put in your global admin permissions for all of your cloud accounts, and we auto-discover your environment and provide you with a singular view of all your various accounts. Once we do that auto-discovery, we can start with managed protection. So we're going to select these particular VMs. Before we jump into creating that SLA, you click this ellipses here, and it gives you some options for configuring, right? So we can do file level recovery. So it does require some compute to be spun up when we take those. It's exocompute, so it's not always running. But whenever we take that first full backup, and then every subsequent incremental backup will spin up small exocompute within your environment. To allow that file level recovery, and then we'll spin it right back down. Super cost effective. Also, out of the solution is going to be in a crash consistent state from our backup perspective, but you can enable app consistency Does require our agent, but because of this, we'll capture all the data within memory too for that specific VM. So when we click Manage Protection, again, you have that gold, silver, and bronze, and if you hover over them, it'll tell you exactly what the RPO and retention is. But then, we can obviously create an SLA from scratch. So I'm going to select the object I want to protect with this particular SLA. On the left, we're looking at our RPOs. On the right, retention again. So say I want to take a snapshot every 1 hour, hang on it for 2 days, a daily for 30 days, and then a monthly for 12 months. We're then going to click Next. We have the ability to enable archiving. So, at a certain point in time, which you dictate, we'll tier that off to, very cheap, deep storage for long-term retention. I do not have a storage account associated with Azure apparently in this particular demo, so I cannot do that at this time, but you do have that option. We now can enable replication. So we select the region we want to replicate to. And then we tell the system how long we want that data to sit at that secondary site before aging out. Click Next. If everything looked good, you click Create. Now this is a demo environment and I have limited access permissions that I'm granted here, so I cannot do it, but it's really that simple. And then lastly, before we conclude this, this demo here, I just want to show you our recovery options. So if I pick on this, I'll just select this VM here at the bottom. Again, you're going to see that same workflow. We have that calendar view. We see the SLA that's assigned to it. And when we go to recovery, let's see, I chose this one because we do have indexing available, so I can search. Based on the file name to locate specific files. And when I go to recover, I can recover specific files, traverse the folder hierarchy. I've provided, Rubric provides that Google-like search functionality. We can restore the existing VM from this snapshot, or we can export to another region or account. It's really that simple. Unfortunately, I'm coming up on time here, but if you'd like to see a deep dive on Rubric and all its capabilities, please reach out to your Rubric sales team or your vendor of choice with how you procure technology, and they'll get that call set up for you. Thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
All right, thanks so much, Robert. I appreciate you taking time to do that demo. That was cool to see Rubric in action. I mean, I always learn a lot from slides, of course, but it's so cool to see a product in action with a screen share demo and just clicking through, going through some of the common administrative tasks. So thanks for taking time to do that. I just brought up the poll question for everyone out there. On the screen is a poll that says, what additional information would you like about the Rubric solution? And we appreciate your feedback on this poll. This way, Robert knows, what you'd like to take as your next step. And I will leave up that poll for everyone out there to respond to while I announce our next prize winner. The Rubric team is taking questions electronically today, so keep those questions coming. We got a lot of great questions coming in for Rubric. Of course, don't forget about our best question prize as well. All right, looks like our next Amazon $500 gift card winner. This one's going out to Morgan King from Utah. Congratulations, Morgan King from Utah. And after the next presentation, we'll be announcing another of our grand prizes, another Microsoft Surface 5 laptop. So make sure that you stay tuned for that. And of course, don't forget about the handouts tab there. There is a resource from Robert at Rubric, and that is the Rubric Security Cloud Technical White Paper, How It Works, Cloud-Native Protection for Azure VMs. So this walks you through the technical details of how to protect Azure VMs with Rubric. A really nicely done paper. Make sure that you download that PDF and you can check it out after the event. All right. Thank you to everyone who responded there to the rubric poll. We do appreciate your feedback. But it's now time to move on to our next expert presentation on the MegaCast. I'm excited to welcome Kevin Garrett, Senior Solutions Engineer at Census. Kevin, it's awesome to have you on the MegaCast. I'll hand it off to you. Take it away.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Actual Tech, for having me and hosting me today. Once again, I'm Kevin Garrett, and I'm happy to be talking with you today about some of the cool things that you can do in the cloud, some ways to save time. We're going to be discussing cloud solutions that help teams and in their decisions and prioritization processes. We'll quickly cover the challenges teams and organizations face, the tools that solve a lot of these primary areas of attack surface management, which is our specific niche, and how Census fits in to this ever-evolving landscape. Let's go ahead and get started. So why are we all here today? Everyone knows in the tech space, there is this seismic shift taking place that affects nearly all organizations to some degree or another. The shift from legacy on-prem technologies to the cloud. And in the cloud, there are a number of unique challenges that we haven't really faced to date. It's still relatively new to many, and not as much relatively new in the sense of the technicals that underlie what is happening in the cloud, but really more so in relation to business processes and how that impacts specific organizations. The business processes haven't really caught up to some of the technicals of the cloud, and this presents some interesting operational challenges that our teams continue to struggle with that are defending organizations and networks. The cloud also, of course, has an insanely fast pace of development, with new tools or functionality that was once on-prem being added to the cloud stacks on a regular basis. This huge amount of complexity, paired with the constantly moving targets of ephemeral workloads and resources, presents unique challenges to all defenders of organizations. Moreover, just the sheer number of tools that are out there make it difficult to understand how teams can actually be effective in identifying what they need to right out of the gate. Before we continue to move forward, there are a couple key questions to keep in mind as we go forward. How long is it going to take for a list of these assets that a company knows that we own, that everything that's on the internet, how long would it take us to come up with those? How many different cloud providers does my company actually use? Do we have a solution in place that can capture the constant changes taking place in the cloud? And most importantly, what exposures can someone outside of my organization see? It's important for us to think like an attacker because we have to defend assets against attackers on a daily basis. As we go forward, bear these things in mind. And if you're not happy with your answer, or maybe you don't have one yet, it's important to take into consideration some of the things that I'll be bringing up a little bit later. As the cloud continues to grow, I was actually quite surprised to learn that for this year, Gartner has forecasted almost $500 billion in cloud spend just across all of the different tools that are out there for this year. And that is only going to continue to grow, with that forecast reaching 1.3 trillion by 2025. Where most organizations are in this journey of the cloud is the shift from the hybridization of an on-prem legacy infrastructure, slowly, or in some cases quickly, migrating into one of these three big cloud providers. This growth presents a lot of different challenges, and the main one being what it takes to protect an organization has changed with managed and unmanaged cloud adoption. And attack surfaces are not shrinking anytime soon. There are more security tools than ever before. And just taking a look at the Gartner cybersecurity vendor list, is a headache. I can't include that in this presentation for legal reasons, but if you give it a quick Google, you practically have to use a microscope to get in there and see the names of different vendors, just due to the sheer scale of organizations that are out there attempting to solve these various challenges in various ways. There is so much content out there from a vendor perspective alone, it can be overwhelming to break down the best steps to take to determine what's next. Where am I on my cloud journey? How can I defend my organization when the traditional perimeter is gone and the new one, i.e. the cloud, is constantly changing? Well, many would agree that understanding everything you own should be step one in that process. And then the next step would probably be to have as much context and understanding of each of those assets that you possibly can. Outside in, our external visibility of your cloud footprint becomes critical in this process because it will help you to prioritize from an attacker's point of view, which is the most common source of security incidents in the cloud. Whether that's bucket permissions misconfiguration in any of the major clouds, whether that's some service that has been exposed unintentionally, or maybe that's been running for some time and now a new 0-day has dropped and there is a CVE out there that needs to be investigated. There are numerous ways that this can impact our organizations in a meaningful, tangible way. It becomes really important to enable your team to discover, prioritize, and remediate vulnerabilities that are internet facing. And that's really where Census shines. So what tools are out there and what do they do? There's a wide variety of things that are out there with the intent of helping organizations in their various stages of growth and maturity. These are just some. This is not an exhaustive list, but vendor risk management in general, that's going to provide some high-level risk, but often lacks context for organizations. Really, this is going to be your security rating systems that are out there. You can get a high-level view, particularly of third parties, of what a general risk posture may be, but it lacks a lot of detail and, most importantly, context and no visibility into cloud configurations. Vulnerability management, absolutely necessary. Vulnerabilities are just a part of being and operating in an IT ecosystem, and they're constantly changing. As I mentioned earlier, new 0 days are dropping. These are going to impact a variety of different pieces of software that are a part of many organizations and ecosystems. The big challenge for these is that they can only scan what they know about. And you may have multiple solutions that you're managing between your on-premise solution and what's going on in the cloud. Each of your cloud providers can have its own solution within that. Depending on how your organization is built and architected, there may be a lot going on in this one single category alone. Digital risk protection. This, of course, is going to be a little bit more on the brand side of the house. And it has no visibility into anything that's unknown at all. It's not really focused in that arena, and it's not focused on internet-facing assets, purely on that brand side of the house. And for the sake of our conversation today, the Cloud Security Posture Management, or CSPM tools, these are going to be where most of what we're talking about makes the impact today. They are great for compliance, but they also can only monitor known cloud accounts. And the big downside is that they generate a huge amount of alerts. So alert fatigue in relation to these tools is a very real thing. And you may find that only a small percentage of the alerts that are generated actually have the context necessary to generate or warrant an investigation into what is discovered. Individually, as a standalone, they're fantastic at discovery, but they struggle to help defenders of the organization truly know what to prioritize and go after. Of course, this again is not an exhaustive list, and it does not include specialized cloud security services that are cloud specific to AWS, Azure, or GCP, which have their own stacks. each of which is often extremely powerful, but isolated to that provider only. Practitioners need to be confident that cloud monitoring is taking place across all clouds, not just the big three, and they need a singular view of this to quickly and effectively locate and remediate the biggest risks. So, why Census? What's different about us? What is our why? At Census, we want to be the one place to understand everything on the internet. Cloud, of course, is a key component of that strategy. As things are migrating more and more to the cloud, it's only getting more and more complex, and it's only growing. So we need to be positioned to take advantage of this and to very clearly enable practitioners and defenders alike to see what they need to see in order to protect their organizations as this footprint grows. Who are we? Well, we started with the invention of ZMAP right back around 2015, and we've continued to grow. We've continued to innovate and find new ways to improve upon the amazing foundation of data that we have. For security pros, we are the best at finding exposures. On the data side of the house, we are second to none. And I emphasize the data because it's very important for understanding the context. I've said context here several times at this point, and the reason for that is it's enormously important, not only for identifying with a high level of confidence that an asset does belong to your organization, particularly when we're discussing shadow IT and unknown IT. We need to be able to substantiate and justify why an asset is showing up if we're attributing it to you. And so how we do this at a big picture is we scan the entire internet daily from multiple different perspectives across the world. We scan the highest number of ports, and this finding, the speed of this, the pace of this, was substantiated recently in a Gray Noise article that we can provide the link to coming out of this as the fastest and most comprehensive scanner that is out there. The 3,500 ports that you can see on screen here is actually the ones that we're scanning on a rapid basis, but in truth, we are scanning all 65,000 ports in addition to that, which is enabling discoveries that no one else can currently provide. We detect protocols automatically, and we have the largest certificate database, which is closing in on 9 billion now, actually. These things are all then merged together into two separate products that we offer. Census Search is the underlying data that powers everything that I've just discussed. It can be searched by anybody. You can go create a free account for it right now and begin to poke around looking at what is scannable of assets that you know about and get a sense of that. It is the most comprehensive database set that is out there on the internet, bar none. And I emphasize this first because it's very important in understanding why Census ASM is so powerful. Census ASM is built on top of Census Search, that second to none data set that is out there. And it is attributed specifically to your organization. We have an algorithm that goes through and has the lowest false positive rate of any that we've encountered and enables defenders to not only detect shadow IT that is out there, unknown assets, it enables them to get a comprehensive view of this and a unified view of this across the on-prem, shared infrastructure, and cloud workloads. This becomes very important for defenders because, as I mentioned towards the beginning of this call, most organizations are in some state of flux. They're on that journey somewhere between on-prem and the cloud. Very few are entirely cloud-focused right now. And when that is the case, generally you're going to lean into whichever cloud provider you've gone with and their security tools and stacks. Census ASM provides the fastest discovery for anything that's out there. The search data itself is refreshed daily, and ASM is also refreshed on top of that again. So we're able to provide this total visibility into the cloud to identify shadow cloud components and provide that deeper level of context for every asset that we've detected and scanned to enable users to identify the most critical things that they need to know. What is the impact of this going to be to my organization? Is this something that has been spun up and been running for years? Is this something that was spun up yesterday or an hour ago, etc.? We also provide on-demand rescan. It is entirely customizable by the customer and in your control. Rapid response tools are always being ingested on an almost daily basis, and many, many other things. Now, in relation to Census ASM, the cloud itself presents a unique challenge. Yes, we can scan everything on a daily basis, and we do. However, when it comes to cloud resources being ephemeral and constantly spinning up, constantly spinning down, every 24 hours or even every 6 hours or so isn't enough. When it comes to the cloud, we need to be doing this much more quickly. We need a way to identify and add patterns as well as resources that exist with a faster degree of faster cadence in that case. So with our cloud connectors, which we have in place for all of the big three right now, this enables us as defenders to move from a point in time scan or assessment or a pen test that uncovers some of these vulnerabilities and challenges to a continuous visibility model. We're constantly scanning, we're constantly refreshing. We are doing that work for you to make sure that you have the best picture you possibly can of your assets that are externally facing the internet on a daily basis, and in some cases, an hourly basis. On average, 45 hours saved per month from doing asset discovery. We like to think like attackers as well. Attack surface management as a category grew out of really this OWASP framework and attack surface as a concept that kind of came to light back around 2012, 2013, and continued to gain traction from there. When you think like an attacker, you know what they're going to go after and what they are going to prioritize because they know how quickly they can compromise your organization and what they can take advantage of to leverage to the greatest effect. And to that end, one might think that on-premise, old, busted legacy technologies might actually be the most vulnerable, but this isn't the case. 65% of our high and critical exposures are operating out of the cloud. And part of the reason for that is what I mentioned before. The cloud is still new. It's still requiring some adjustment of thinking, not only from a business process perspective, from a technical capability. It's a large mindset shift in terms of what it can do for an organization. And as a result, mistakes are made, whether that's a misconfiguration of a bucket and permission set, or something else that may be a little bit more severe, like a database service that's exposed, a lack of encryption on certain services. These are the kinds of things that attackers will find and want to take advantage of. And lastly, eliminating shadow cloud. 31% more visibility with the cloud connector. These cloud connectors, essentially what we do with them is they are able to send our product information, our attribution engine information, regarding those ephemeral things that can spin up and spin down in the various cloud accounts. To use AWS as an example, that would be things like EC2 or your Route 53. These things have our information that is valuable to us, not only in terms of monitoring for these domains or for these specific assets, but also from a pattern analysis perspective. Once we know about them, we're able to kind of use that metadata to go out and find other things that are unknown throughout an entire underlying data set of search data across the entire internet that I mentioned before. We are second to none in this and find the most that's out there. And these cloud connectors really are enabling teams to save a huge amount of time, effort, and energy and identify where the most critical areas and highest impact areas are going to be for their organizations. That's all the information I've got for today. Now that we're ready to head to Q&A, David, how are we doing?
Doing great. Great presentation. This is really fascinating. Such a fascinating topic to me. I've just brought up the poll question for everyone out there that says, what additional information would you like about the Census solution? We do want to get your feedback on this, and we'll leave this up while we take your questions. And we got a lot of great questions rolling in. If you were watching the presentation there and you're thinking, not quite sure how this works, or how would this work in my environment or this use case, and now is the time to ask the question and get it in because I believe Kevin's ready for some questions. You ready to go, Kevin?
I am, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. I'll go ahead and start with this one from Douglas, who's asking, what tool does Census have that will enable my security team to have visibility into services that might be running on non-standard ports?
Awesome. Yeah, great question, Douglas. Thank you. So part of what Census is doing in scanning the entire internet is we're scanning everything that's out there. And our scans are port agnostic. So whatever service is being returned on those ports, whether that's a web server that's running on a non-standard port or something along those lines, that's something that our tool that is in our data set. And on the search side of the house, you can use that to go and run any kind of threat investigation you want. And on the ASM side of the house, we have kind of a hybrid offering now that's a search feature that allows you to pull those kinds of details out of the weeds. So you can create custom queries and save them that actually enable your security team to go in and say, I want to know all of the hosts we detected that are associated with my organization that are running web servers on ports that are not 80 or 8080, 443, whatever that list of accepted ports may be. You can find and detect anything that is not running on those ports, whatever the service may be. You can do it for SSH, not running on 22 or 222, whatever kind of query you'd like. You can get in there and really dig through the weeds to your heart's content.
Very nice. That's cool. Yeah, because, I know everyone knows, but you can configure anything to run on any port, and it could be a very good way to hide some malicious activity. So that's cool to know. Let's
Absolutely.
see. I mean, your goal of the one place to understand everything on the internet is no small task. I just saw here that you all discover 85% more than the nearest competitor. So this is kind of mind-blowing. When it comes to ASM, or attack surface management, how does someone out there know that they need it? Maybe that wasn't kind of on their list of top things I need today. They knew they need better security, but what about attack surface management? What is that going to solve for them specifically?
Well, that's a great question. It's kind of a tricky one because attack surface is such a broad term in and of itself. But really what it boils down to is asset inventory is widely regarded as kind of a foundational starting point for securing your organization. So you have to know what you have in order to secure it. And if you don't know, about something that's running on your environment, say that is a rogue web server or SSH port that's open, then that becomes really challenging and problematic, and that could potentially lead to a breach or ingress point. So really a lot of what the need arrives from is the need to know about shadow IT. It's exposing the things that you don't know about, and it becomes particularly valuable for larger companies that have gone through transitions, as I called out in the presentation, transitioning from on-prem to the cloud, and the kind of confusion that arises within every organization when that happens, as well as like mergers and acquisitions, things along those lines where you don't actually have any idea what's coming in or being kind of brought in and folded into your network. There's a lot of reasons, but ultimately it boils down to what's on my external perimeter that has a vulnerability attached to it, whether that's an old, outdated OpenSSH. Most recently, the Exchange server vulnerability, that's a critical one. That one was dropped into our platform recently. And actually, even more recently, we figured out a way to fingerprint Pulse Connect and get that into the tool of the passive scanner, which we're the first to ever do that. So there's a great deal of stuff out there, and you just have to know about it in order to protect your environment.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw here a stat from Census that 66% of the services you uncover are on non-standard ports. So that reminds me of the saying, like, if you don't monitor it, you can't manage it. And I'll add to that, you can't secure it if you're not monitoring it and managing it. So companies really need that kind of total visibility. You talked about the cloud connector with companies moving to cloud. I mean, that's one of the biggest concerns or blockades they have with moving to the cloud is around security. So with the cloud connectors, can you give us a little bit more detail on how do those work?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously the big challenge of the cloud is how quickly things are changing. Elastic IPs in AWS are a great example. It may be attached to your organization for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 30 minutes or maybe longer, but even if you're scanning on a daily basis, that's obviously not enough to catch that kind of a window. And so what the cloud connectors do on our side is they feed some of that data. We basically install them, get the keys in place, and we have a way to just plug all of that in across the big three, and that feeds that data that is ephemeral into our what we call our seed engine. And the seed engine is the starting point, the basis for which our attribution runs on top of our data set, which then crawls through that haystack of the IPv4 space and pulls out all of the needles that are associated with your organization. So it does a couple of things. It gives us the direct asset to make sure that if that is live and associated, we positively correlate that. And also it gives us a little bit of metadata to make further discoveries of shadow IT, et cetera, through that attribution process.
Got it. Okay. And what about the architecture of this? Does this run on premises as well as in the cloud? Is this a SaaS service? How does this work?
Yeah, totally SaaS service. Everything we do, I can build attack services with little to no input from a customer, but I prefer to do it in kind of a collaborative sense. Ultimately, we leverage a lot of OSINT framework to be able to go out and do these things. But at the same time, the internet is a vastly complex place. It's constantly changing, and that's part of why our data set is so critical, because we're doing scanning bigger, better, faster than anyone else out there on more ports, discovering more services. As you pointed out, you can spin up any service on any port. So if you're only scanning, say, 1,500 ports, for example, you're missing a huge chunk of what's out there. You have to at least have some intelligence to go beyond that and continue to discover those potential vulnerabilities, because it can be obfuscated anywhere. So yeah, there's a great deal of potential for what we're doing, and a lot of use cases that we can tap into.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I may get this wrong, but what is it? 65,535 possible ports on a host.
Pretty darn close. Yeah, I think that's right.
So that's a lot of potential ports, per host. And I mean, your website has no shortage of stats here. Another one I wrote down was that 50% of enterprises will unknowingly or mistakenly have some IaaS storage services, network segments, applications, or APIs directly exposed to the internet. So that's half of all companies out there have exposed unknown services, and that's a big open hole for attackers to exploit.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you throw in 0 days on top of that, like almost a year ago now, we had Log4j. Since then, we've had 3 or 4 other large ones that have had significant impact. You have to be able to be flexible, and you have to be able to incorporate that quickly to help teams defend their perimeters. And that's really the goal of the ASM in particular.
Absolutely. So if folks are interested in this is resonating with them, but they kind of need some sort of either personal demo or maybe a test, a proof of concept kind of at their company. Is that something that you all do?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to do that. It's always a lot of fun to have those conversations and talk through what customers are trying to do. If anyone is interested in exploring the search side of the house, anyone can go and create a free account on search.census.io. And that's where our search engine that is out there is you can go and explore that. There's the sky's the limit in terms of what you want to do. By default, you have a good sizable amount of free queries with that free account. So you can actually accomplish quite a bit. A lot of researchers, threat intelligence, threat hunters leverage that to go and explore, what's out there on the internet, because it's the freshest stuff that there is. And just, I would love to, that's probably going to go in through our website, and it'll get connected to me or one of my teammates. And we'd love to chat more about whatever you'd like to do.
Nice. Now, I did not know about this. You taught me something really cool here. Search.census.io. I just brought that up, and this looks super intriguing. I look forward to trying this myself. So thank you for sharing that with me and with the audience as well. I'm afraid we're all out of time here in our presentation window, but Kevin, it's been great having you on the event today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You have a great rest of your day.
And for more information on Census, check out the handout in your handouts tab as well. There's a resource on threat detection, defense, and remediation using ASM, or attack surface management. And also, don't forget about this cool resource, search.census.io. You can put in an IP address, a name, a protocol, and search across 211 million hosts and 565 million virtual hosts on the internet for free. Cool stuff. All right. I love seeing cool new stuff on the MegaCast. With that, it's now time for me to pass it on over to my fellow moderator, Jess, to announce our next prize. Jess, are you there?
I'm here, David. Man, I could listen to you and Kevin just go back and forth all day. Let's just do a show on that.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a hot topic. Got a lot of hot topics and cool tools today.
Yeah, no shortage of good information. Well, thanks, David. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jess. Take it away.
All right. Well, as David said, it is time for another prize giveaway. So let's head on over and see who's up next. All right, we're going to start with a $500 Amazon gift card. And as you can see from your screen there, then I'm going to give away one of those shiny new Microsoft Surface Laptop 5s. Boy, is that a mouthful and a whole lot of awesome. So let's start out with our very next lucky winner of a $500 Amazon gift card. Now, before I say a name, I'm going to remind you all that you do need to be here, live, present at the MegaCast. And who wouldn't want to be a part of this party? So if you are here, you are qualified to win. And up next, we have Leon Morgowitz of Michigan. Leon Morgowitz of Michigan, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Congratulations. And now on to the shiny new Microsoft Surface Laptop 5. Our next winner is Amanda Husky of Virginia. Amanda Husky of Virginia. Oh, I already see Leon chiming in. Yay! Hi, Leon. That's coming your way, as David said, for some Christmas shopping. All right. Well, congratulations to Leon on your Amazon gift card, to Amanda on your new laptop. As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap today. Now, don't forget, there are still lots more chances to win one of those prizes. Plus, we have that best question gift card from each session. But for now, we're going to keep zipping along here in the MegaCast. Let's move forward. There we go. Up next, it is my pleasure to introduce you all to our next exciting presenter. We're going to hear from Blair Hanley-Frank, Product Marketing Manager at Glean. Blair, thank you so much for being here with us on the MegaCast today. Now, I know you have just a ton of great information to cover. Speaking of people I could listen to all day, you are definitely one of them. So, Blair, I'm going to hand the mic right on over to you.
All right. Thanks, Jess, and thanks to Actual Tech for having me. I'm really excited to be here and to talk to you about how workplace search can accelerate your company's success in the cloud. To start, I want to lay some groundwork and talk about what we're living in today. We're living through two really major tectonic shifts in workplace technology that have taken place over the last couple of decades. The first is the rise of cloud computing. It's now possible for businesses everywhere to get rapid access to high quality software and adopt that on a subscription basis without perpetual licensing, without worrying about provisioning physical infrastructure. And that simplifies adoption, management, and deployment of applications across an entire company. What this means is that within a modern business, iteration and transformation are normal. it's not the exception anymore. And that goes both for software vendors that are building and creating this software, as well as the enterprises that are consuming it. At the same time, we're also dealing with what some people have called the consumerization of IT. The way that I think about it is just that the barrier between what we consider workplace technology and personal technology just doesn't exist anymore, right? You and I are carrying around all our work in our pockets. My work email lives right beside my personal email, and the network access that I need to work with my coworkers is pervasive. It's everywhere. It's in the air around us. In addition, employees are now coming to work with new expectations. They're so used to using technology from really spectacular consumer tech companies like Apple, like Facebook, like Amazon and Google. They're coming into the office every day with expectations about how the technology that they're going to use to get work done is going to work for them. What they're looking for is technology that's intuitive, right? It should be straightforward for them to adopt on both an individual and a team basis. And it should work the way that they already think about and do work without requiring them to completely revamp the workflows and mental models that they have. It should also be effective, right? They don't want to be stuck being beholden to technology that doesn't work the way that they want to and that holds them back from doing their best work. And finally, what they're looking for is personalization. A one-size-fits-all experience worked at one point, but it doesn't anymore because we're so used to having algorithms touch every part of our life, from the search results that we see when we're looking up something on Google to what's advertised to us on any number of media properties. And so all of this means that enterprise IT needs to respond. And how do you do that? Well, in the modern context, it's to procure the right software for the right people when they need it. And with the cloud, that's incredibly easy, right? You don't need to worry about long contract cycles and thinking about gaming out perpetual licenses. Instead, it's really straightforward, even for teams to go out and just put a piece of software on a credit card and get to work. But this also creates its own problems, right? When you think about SaaS, at this point, there's no SaaS in an enterprise without SaaS sprawl. People are using so many different tools that it's hard to know where knowledge lives. There's no one source of truth where we can find everything anymore, because the decisions that we're making may be happening in a document, they may be happening in a Jira ticket, or maybe even in a Teams chat. And so what that means is that as we're looking to do new work, we have to then go and reinvent the wheel for ourselves. And what all of this adds up to is that everyone within an organization becomes a librarian. On an individual level, it means that you're losing productivity because you're bogged down trying to go and find the information across all of your company's systems, rather than staying focused on the task that you have at hand. There's also increased friction to collaboration, right? Because if it's hard to find the information that you need, that means you need to lean on other people, whether that's within your team or within another team at your company, to find what you're looking for. And sometimes that means you're stuck waiting for somebody to respond to your Slack message, or they're stuck bothering you at all hours to try and find the important information to respond to an urgent customer need. And if you put all of that together, it means that employees are losing satisfaction, because ultimately, most of us don't come to work to search for information. We come to work to do the things that we love. And spending time having to find information and mediate searches across multiple different pieces of software is only going to get more and more frustrating over time. And all of this is quantifiable in terms of business impacts. First and foremost, from an IT perspective, you have to manage all of these sprawling applications, including some that may not even be owned by IT itself. But from an employee productivity perspective, people are burning hours and hours looking for information and duplicating work. And switching between apps puts a draw and a drain on our attention that makes it harder to remain focused and to do what it is that we're looking to do. Now, the good news is that there is a solution thanks to advances in technology. The first of which is that the modern cloud-based SaaS application has standardized a bunch of data models. So there's really clear and easy ways to access data, as well as permissions and signals for search ranking. And all of that data is really large scale. So what that means is that it's possible to consume a lot of information and build models about how companies talk and how they work. And with the latest advances in machine learning and natural language processing, it's possible for us to reason across all of that data and do it in a performant way and do that automatically. And that's why we've created Glean. Glean enables you to search across all of your company's applications to find exactly what you need and discover the things that you and your colleagues should know. This is the core of the Glean experience, our search results page. This should look fairly familiar to you, right? We've designed it to act and feel like the same sorts of consumer search platforms that people are used to in their personal life, so that it's intuitive and easy for them to pick up. But what we bring with it is a deep understanding of the way that enterprises think and the way that they work together. Speaking to all of that data that I just talked about, our models create individualized understanding of enterprises' unique language, because every company has a way that they talk and that they write that is individualized to them. And what they do is that allows us to generate high quality and personalized answers that not only are impacted by the content of the files that people are producing across multiple different applications, but it also takes into account user activity and the way that users are related to one another within an organization to provide even better and richer results. And what this means is that when you're using Glean, the results that you are getting are going to be tailored to the way that you work and the people who you work with. Because if you think about it, engineers are going to be looking for completely different answers to the same questions than perhaps a sales rep or a customer success manager. And Glean takes all of that into account. But in addition to search, we also help people discover information within their organization, right? People, as it turns out, what we've found is that people generally make up around about 10% of our search volume on average across our customer base, which makes sense. A lot of work is working together with our colleagues. And that's why we've designed rich people profiles that make it easy for you to find out information, not only about who someone is, but also how they fit into the organization and the best way for them to work with you. Glean also works where you work. Within any web page, people who have the Glean extension installed can just hit Command J, and that opens up a sidebar that provides them with contextual recommendations about the files that they are looking at, as well as a quick and easy way to search for any information across their company without leaving their work. And what's more, if you use Slack and you're having a deep conversation with one of your colleagues and you need to find a piece of information to share with them, you can actually talk to GleanBot within Slack and it will provide you with those answers powered by the same search index that powers our experience on the web for you to have that conversation in chat. Glean has more than 80 native connectors for the systems that your company uses today that work right out of the box. It's very easy to get set up with Glean. Most of our customers are up and running within an hour. In addition, we're also able to support custom data sources in the event that you have, for example, a homegrown CRM system, or you want to make sure that your externally facing help center is also indexed within Glean. In addition, the core of our experience is this new tab page. This is the best way to start your work wherever you are. Glean's homepage provides easy access to our powerful search, as well as a bunch of suggested content that gives you rapid access to the work that you're trying to do whenever you're trying to do it. As you might expect, we place a premium on security because what we're doing is we're indexing all of your company's data, and we've invested really heavily in making sure that your data is encrypted, it's protected, and it is never shared. And what all of this adds up to is really satisfied users. Our users are on average searching Glean between 3 and 20 times a day, and they're reporting saving hours per week. If you think about that from, for example, an engineering perspective, that's a significant return on investment. And what's more, when we pilot Glean with our customers, what they find is that their end users really want to keep it once they're able to get their hands on it. But more than just in terms of time, we're seeing significant impact across our customer base, right? Increased employee satisfaction because it's easier for people to find information without that friction. Faster onboarding so that people are able to get started. After all, if you don't have to spend time asking other people how to find information, it's way easier for you to get up and running and to start contributing effectively. In addition, it's possible on the business side to save money on headcount and ship code faster and drive greater revenue across a number of departments. And what you can see is that we've been able to rack up a tremendous list of customers who are who are all really happy customers and who we prioritize. Ensuring that our customers are happy and that we are responsive to their needs is a critical value for us here at Glean. It's something that we live every day and that we invest in quite heavily throughout the organization. So let's recap. Glean is the enterprise search platform that works for today's teams, right? If you think back to what enterprise software end users are looking for, they're looking for that same sort of power that they're used to in their personal lives. They need software that is going to help them be more effective at work, that's going to be intuitive for them to use, but that doesn't sacrifice any of the power that they need to get their jobs done. And in addition, they're looking for personalized information that is relevant to them based on the work that they do, that's not just one size fits all. And that's exactly how Glean is designed to work. In addition, our discovery capabilities mean that it's easier than ever to find information across your company when you need it and understand what it is that you should know about when you're trying to get your work done. And Glean is ready to work where you are. In addition to our amazing web-based experience, it's possible to access Glean on any website and find information, or share results from Glean within chat without skipping a beat. And I didn't even get to talk about our mobile app, which means that wherever I am, if I'm just waiting in line for a coffee and I need to respond to some urgent email, it's easy for me to do that without having to switch and flip-flop between a bunch of different applications on my phone. Fourth, it's very easy to set up. Glean's connectors mean that we're able to get customers ready to go within hours of getting them set up with the platform. And that means it's even faster for them to drive that value for customers, for their customers internally and their users across the board. And finally, Glean is built on a foundation of security and trust that mean that we are confident that your information will be safe with us, and that no matter how it is that you want to work, whether you want us to manage your company's search environment, or if you want to host it yourself, we can enable that for you. So thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. And I'd love to open things up for Q&A.
Blair, thank you so much for that awesome presentation. Just a really interesting discussion there and really well told. So I appreciate that. We have a lot of great questions coming in already. I want to make sure that we can get to as many of them as we can. So Blair, you ready to dive into some Q&A now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I think actually this one's a great place to start because you were kind of giving us a little bit of insight just there as we reviewed all the sort of key highlights of the Glean platform. But, you know, enterprise search is not a new idea. And one of our audience members here is wondering what makes Glean unique.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's a really good question and really important. There are a few key factors that I would point to that I think make Glean stand out from the rest of the players in this space. The first of which is our connectors and our ease of setup. It's really easy to get Glean working quickly. And what's more, the power of our intelligence is that you don't need to spend a bunch of time managing the search platform itself. We handle all of the intelligence needed to make it quick and easy for you to get high quality results. And third, I would just really like to shout out our incredible search and intelligence engineering team. We have a bunch of really phenomenal and smart people working for us who are able to translate the latest innovations in deep learning and natural language understanding into actionable value for our customers that get deployed to them as soon as we're able to make any improvements.
Well, I can definitely attest that everyone I've met on the Glean team is phenomenal and smart. So I'm sure that is an accurate description. Another question here, you know, and this is an interesting one. So if Glean trains a language model on my organization's data, are there security or privacy implications?
For sure. So a couple of things that I want to touch on there. I think first and foremost, something that's really critical to us is that your organization's data is yours. We don't use your data to train anybody else's models, and we don't use anybody else's models to train your data. And if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense for us to do that because every company has its own unique language and its own unique way of working. Making sure that your data is yours and is only used for your company is the best way for us to go so that we're not polluting our models with irrelevant signal. So that's the first piece. And the second piece that I think is really important for me to highlight is that all of Glean's connectors import the native permissioning from their source systems. So what that means, for example, is that within Google Drive, you have a bunch of different documents, and each of those documents can be seen by a particular audience of people. And you don't have to do anything within Glean to have those permissions translate into search results so that when I search for things, I can only see what I am allowed to within Google Drive. And Jess, if you were to search for things, you would only be able to see what you were allowed to see. And that's really important and something that works across all of the data sources that we integrate with.
I love that. Okay. We're getting close to the end of time here, but I'm going to sneak in a few more questions. So another one here that I think is good to address. One of our audience members wondering if Glean is going to be able to integrate with their homegrown CRM.
Yes. So the great thing is that in addition to all of our pre-built connectors, we also have a couple of ways for customers to get custom data sources connected with Glean. So in the case of our CRM, you could use our push API to get information piped out of your organization's CRM, whatever it may be, into Glean and have that show up within search results like it was anything from any other connector that we have.
All right, nice and easy. I think that we'll make this our last question. We still got lots of great ones coming in, but I think we're going to have to leave it pretty quick here. Is there is there a limit to how many apps I can connect for my team?
So there's a really simple answer here, and then I'll give the more complicated answer. The really simple answer is no, you can connect as many applications as you want. The more complicated answer is you want to connect as many applications as possible to Glean. And the reason for this is to ensure that people are able to find all of the information that they need, because Glean is at its best when we're able to search across all of your company's data, not just a subset of applications that have been anointed for use with Glean. And furthermore, it allows us to provide even better ranking, because with each new application that we connect, that's additional signal about how people within your company work. And that will then allow us to better personalize their search results.
All right. Well, I love both the short and the long answer on that one. Blair, honestly, I wish we could keep going all day because I'm learning so much from you. And I know our audience is really enjoying this, but I think we're going to have to leave it there. Before we let you go, though, for anyone out there that is just feeling that nice little brain light up fog right now and they want to keep going with Glean and learn a little bit more, what do they do? What's their first step?
Yeah, so it's really easy. You can go ahead and reach out to our team through our demo form. Go to glean.com/demo. Just click on the link in the slide here. In addition to that, it's also, I will also be sticking around. And I will be able to answer questions in chat because I would also love to keep the conversation going.
Oh, I love that. Blair, that's fantastic. So for anyone whose question we didn't get to today, not only will we make sure that your questions are sent to the Glean team so there can be some further follow-up, but Blair's going to stick around and answer some questions on live chat. So keep those questions coming in. Blair, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Jess.
Okay, and while Blair is answering those questions on live chat, I am back here with you, and I want to point out that we have that poll question up for you all. So what we're wondering about is what additional information you would like to get from Glean. So data sheets, technical white papers, customer case studies, and more. Let Glean know what information they can send you to kind of help you in whatever your next step is as you're doing your own research. And again, these polls are just an absolute fantastic way to allow Glean to know what information you need, let us know what kind of things are resonating with you, but also to really make your life easier down the line, because you're gonna remember some of the stuff you heard today, but not all of it. So click here and let Glean know what they can send you, what kind of memory jogs you need for your next step. All right, and while you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and give away another prize because I think it's about time for another prize here. So we have another $500 Amazon gift card we're going to be giving away. I'm going to remind you again that you do need to be here live at the MegaCast. Our next winner of an Amazon gift card is Haley Scarborough. Sorry, I don't know why that was so tough to say. Haley Scarborough of Maryland. Congratulations to Haley. Besides me butchering your last name, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. So that balances out, right? As always, we will be in touch about claiming your prize after we wrap today. And don't forget, for you folks out there, there's still lots more chances to win a prize. Plus, we have that Best Question gift card. Even if we don't get to your question in our live sessions, you're still entered to win. So keep those questions coming in. All right, but for now, we will zip along in our MegaCast. Here we go. It is my pleasure to introduce you all to our next awesome presenter in this already awesome MegaCast. Up next, we're going to hear from John Chavan, Senior Cloud Security Solutions Architect at Palo Alto Networks. John, thank you so much for being here with us today. I know you've got a lot of great stuff to cover for us. John, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, but I think we've got a bit of an echo.
Yeah, I may have unmuted too soon.
The mute unmute game. Yes.
Wait, actually, I just realized what I did. I had my speakerphone on. Is that better now?
I'll talk for a second. Nope, we're good. Okay, excellent. You see, you know what? The fun of live. If somebody doesn't mute unmute, then it's not a real presentation, right? So, thank you for that, John, and take it away.
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, my name is John Chavan. I work for Palo Alto Networks as a Senior Cloud Security Solutions Architect. Been with Palo for a little over a year. I joined last August, and prior to this, was actually a cloud platform engineer for a large global bank. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about today is we call our CNAPP. You may have heard this term from Gartner, is a cloud native application protection platform. What's really unique about this is it's a consolidated platform for basically helping you solve all of your cloud security challenges, which usually are very, very many, right? So being in my previous role as a platform engineer, one of the things that was really cool about that was I really got to see firsthand all the problems kind of sitting in between the security operations teams and all the application teams. And, it was, somewhat of a dogfight because we had a lot of challenges with trying to move to the cloud fast, and you have all these security issues. Developers don't understand maybe how to bake security into their code, into their applications and infrastructure that they might be building this code. We've also got security teams who, are kind of pushing back and saying, no, this isn't secure, you can't deploy this, and it just slows everything down. So we'll kind of get into those little details here. So the first thing, I just want to make sure we set the table, right? The cloud providers, they're responsible for that bottom half of the stuff, and the customers are responsible for a lot of the things we see at the top of the slide, right? Your data, how you configure your infrastructure, networks, users' credentials, all the resources and things that you build. And so what we're trying to do with our product, with Prisma Cloud, is to help the customers solve those problems. And just some data points, these statistics come from some of our own research. And the reality is, right, you look at some of these numbers, these are pretty big numbers when you think about how much information and data is being moved to the cloud. Right, 43% of databases not being encrypted, 66% of organizations not rotating their access keys, and then 99% of cloud identities have too many permissions. Again, you think about the speed and everything that we've had to, force, moving to the cloud over the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic. What ends up happening is that security teams just can't keep up with this stuff. Things are kind of left out there, not just, secured properly, and you start to end up with these numbers. To further iterate that, the companies who are using things like infrastructure as code, Terraform being the most popular one. Also, folks who are using Kubernetes, they, might be using Helm charts to help build those templates for them to deploy their Kubernetes. Again, huge numbers here. These are, eye-popping numbers when you think about how much is being deployed to have well over 50%, and then, Kubernetes, 99% of these things are misconfigured. The reality is, again, the application teams are having a hard enough time deploying things, trying to get things functional. Security is last thing on their mind. So I've kind of talked about, right, securing multi-cloud becomes very overwhelming. So the first point here, limited visibility and governance, right, and especially for the companies who are being, audited and might have some regulatory controls. Compliance is a huge thing, right? Let alone for even the ones that aren't, right? We want to make sure that we're doing things properly, we're compliant, we're properly governing our implementations. We have this new atmosphere where things are constantly changing in the environment, right? You can spin up containers quickly, you can run serverless functions and things like that. These things don't last all that long, and so how do you maintain security on all these things and keep an eye on that when there are issues? And then you've got inconsistency across the different cloud infrastructures, right? So back in the day when we didn't have cloud, everything was controlled in your data centers. Now you might be having 1, 2, 3, different cloud environments. Each of the cloud providers are doing things differently. This just, adds so much more complexity and things that you have to manage properly. So I mentioned the term CNAP, right? It's a cloud native application protection platform. And just a real simple view here of this diagram is that we believe that it isn't enough to just fix things at runtime, right? You may have heard of some platforms called CSPM or CWP, which are terms that stand for Cloud Security Posture Management or Cloud Workload Protection. About 4 or 5 years ago, those were kind of the standalone pieces that were kind of coming out in cloud security. But now, we've evolved to, think about, being able to fix things all the way back at code and build. And so the CNAP is really about taking all of that, right? Thinking about how everything is being built from our application teams. We're using infrastructure as code to build our infrastructure, going all the way back, right? If we use the term shift left, right? We've hopefully heard about that term shift left. Thinking about fixing these things as early on as possible, right? And you can use the analogy of manufacturing, where you think about how would you manufacture anything today, right? You start, early on with building parts in an assembly line, and obviously if there's a bad part, you want to be able to fix those things as early as possible. Well, it's the same thing with cloud, right? In our security, we want to make sure we're fixing these things as early as possible. So being able to have this holistic look and, doing this across multiple clouds, we want to be able to make sure that we're setting our security policies all the way through the pipelines and fixing those things early on as possible, so it reduces our alerts and fatigue, especially for the security operations folks when it does get to runtime and deployment. So how did we get here? So Prisma Cloud, we started on this journey probably about 5 years ago. Again, I mentioned a couple of tools, Cloud Security Posture Management, Cloud Workload Protection. So we started with those pieces, and then we've kind of built upon there. We added identity and data. So you may have heard the term Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management, which is really securing your IAM pieces. And then we also have data security, looking at, finding sensitive information in maybe storage or, looking at other places where you may be storing data. You want to make sure things are encrypted and so forth, right? We want to make sure that stuff is secure. And then lastly, our code security, which I kind of talked about, shifting left and being able to look at things early on in code. And then WAS, which actually stands for a Web Application API Security. Most web applications today are built with, are API driven. So being able to scan those APIs, look at the specs, and actually, provide security around that. And then just a couple highlights, right? Our customer benefits, 60% reduction in DevOps efforts. That's massive, right? Huge efficiencies gained. We actually have, some data that shows return on investment here is pretty massive. It's like 270-something%. Payback is like 6 months. So, this isn't just a security platform. It's also a platform that helps you to, become much more efficient, especially in these tough economic times. It also helps to, obviously reduce our likelihood of material data breaches. And then, faster compliance reporting. Again, I'll use my, previous experience working for a big bank. I remember the days, it was only a couple of years ago that, we'd have the auditors come around and have to produce all these reports. It was brutal. I mean, people working 80-hour weeks, multiple weeks, trying to come up with these reports because we didn't have good tooling at the bank at the time. And so seeing a tool like this and how it can automate taking all the information, producing these reports for you, really cuts down all that time and effort to become compliant, as well as, obviously, make sure you're taking care of the auditors and giving them what they need. And then lastly, too, on the right-hand side, we started this journey, again, like I said, about 4 or 5 years ago. So we've built out this platform, best in class, and we're getting recognized in numerous different ways from the industry. So now I'm going to focus just on cloud infrastructure and identities. So stepping, a little bit deeper, now we're not going to talk about everything in the platform. We're just going to demo a couple small things. So the focus here again is for the rest of this topic is infrastructure and identities. And I highlighted, just those parts here in our code to cloud a diagram here. So we have on the runtime side, CSPM. So we think about misconfigurations that would be in runtime. This could be anything from, misconfigured storage, networks, all sorts of different things, right? And then KIM, which is our cloud infrastructure entitlement management. That would be our identities, looking at IAM roles and policies and things like that, and that's things that might be over permissive. And then we're going to take that and shift left, and we're going to think about, okay, well, how can I fix these things early on? So IAC, or infrastructure as code security, again, thinking about things like Terraform or CloudFormation or ARM templates, whatever you might be using for infrastructure as code to build that stuff. And then also doing secret scanning, so we can, actually see that, you might need to, authenticate to the cloud, right, with access keys, for instance, right? You want to make sure that you're not leaving those access keys stored in clear text, or whatever type of secrets that you might be using to, have your applications run. So we can scan all that stuff early on, make sure that your developers aren't committing that into code, which could then end up, unfortunately being found by somebody else who don't want to find it, and that leads to bad things, right? That's how these data breaches start. So I've already kind of talked about these terms, but just to make sure that everybody again understands what they all mean. Cloud security posture management. This is really at runtime, so we're going to help establish those guardrails, help to maintain a compliance across those public clouds. Cloud infrastructure entitlement management. One of the things that we do really, really well with our platform is understanding the full net effective permissions. What I mean by that is that each cloud provider has a very unique way in the way that they set up their permissions and policies and so forth, right? AWS and Azure and GCP, they all do it in their own unique way. And to properly, make sure that things are maintained, it's not just, you apply a policy to a user. You might have groups that you set up that you send a policy to, and then users can get attached to groups. You might have organizational type policies that, restrict certain access. So even if a user has been given a permission at a lower level, if you have an organizational policy that says, no, you can't do these certain high-risk functions, we have to take all those things into account. So that's what we mean by net effective permissions, is actually giving you an accurate calculation of what those permissions are. And then thirdly, our infrastructure as code. Again, we're thinking about shifting left. We want to make sure that we're looking at how do we secure and fix issues very, very early on, all the way back to the developers' IDEs. We're also able to do things like remediate drift. And what I mean by drift is that, let's just imagine that you've deployed something with infrastructure as code like Terraform, and that's been deployed. Now it's running at runtime, and someone goes into the console and they make a change. We can pick that up. So we can see that, somebody made a change outside of what was intended from code, and we can go back and fix that, right? Because we don't want our users to go into the console and change something that we're trying to implement as infrastructure as code. And then last is secret scanning, which is, pretty basic in the sense of what it is, right? We're scanning for secrets. However, we got to look at a whole bunch of different types of secrets, right? There's access keys. There's also all sorts of different secrets that you might be using in your applications. And we want to make sure that we're identifying, blocking those things from getting into a code commit as early as possible, right? So we're scanning those things again, all the way back to the developers' IDEs. We're scanning in infrastructure's code templates. We're scanning in container images, helping to make sure that stuff doesn't get any further. Okay, now I'm going to jump into my share screen mode here and do a little demo.
I'm here with you, John. I'll give you a check when you're on.
Is it the? I got to which. Trying to figure out which icon I'm using.
All the panels, all the tabs, all the monitors.
I know, right? This is terrible. Oh, here it is. I just found it. Okay.
There you go.
Bear with me. Okay. Let's see. Let's make sure I get the right one here. Okay.
Perfect. You are screen sharing.
Okay. And you see my console, right? It should say Prisma Cloud at the top, policies. Is that right?
Yes, we're seeing that.
Excellent. Okay. All right, so this is going to be a quick demo today, right? We're just going to do things really quickly, but I'm going to start you off on the policies page. One of the things I want you to notice is that out of the box, these are all of our out of the box policies. We have well over 1,500 policies. There's quite a bit of work that's gone into building these policies, and I'll just make a note that we're covering today 5 different cloud providers. There's plans to add more. So, we got you covered when it comes to multi-cloud. And you can easily, sort things. What's really nice here is that, if I want to just look at certain types of views, maybe I don't, if I'm a certain type of persona like an IAM admin, maybe I only care about Kim. And so if I wanted to switch to just this, I can, quickly do that at a click of a button. I can add my own custom views, whatever kind of, way you want to configure this as your own user. We make it really easy for you to focus on what you want to focus on, right? Now I'm going to switch over to alerts. And on our alerts page, right, this is typically where your operations folks are coming to. This, again, all the different views that you want to use, which is really convenient. We've got all sorts of different filters that you can filter on. You can create your own views. Like I said, I've got my own view here, which would give me just a drill down into like maybe just what my account group is, right, or my accounts are. And so now I'm only looking at just the alerts that I care about for this particular group, right? So if you're a customer and you want to just say focus on the finance department or what your critical teams are, you can easily start to filter that down if you want to, however you want to use it. But this is great, right? Because now I can start to think, okay, what are my issues that I want to focus on? Again, I can go back to the overview tab if I want to. Maybe I just want to look at high alerts, whatever it is that you want to focus on. And then anywhere you see a green check mark, these are ones that we can auto remediate. Now, Prisma Cloud, we have the ability to do some auto remediation. It's one of those things that, as a customer, you're going to decide if that's something you want the platform to do, or maybe you want to do it another way, but it is there as an option. It's also super easy to create custom policies. I could take, you can see here, I've got, this is a demo environment, so I've got some of my partners here who have created their own policies, and, we make that super easy to do as well. So let's move on. I just want to switch now to the code part. So now we're thinking about, again, shifting left. And there's 2 repositories that I'm going to show you. So basically, what we have here is we're ingesting any of the repositories that you as a customer would want to ingest. And you don't need to pay attention so much to the code. If you're not familiar with looking at infrastructure's code, that's not a problem. But I want you to imagine yourself as maybe a security operations person. And, I talked early on, being a platform engineer, I saw, the challenges between security ops and the application teams. Well, if you're a security operations person, maybe you don't understand the full details of what the code is that they've written, but what you do care about is these alerts. And you can see right here, like I've got an alert that says logging's not enabled. Okay, that's something I might want to turn on. Or versioning is disabled in this case. Encryption isn't turned on. If I want to start to fix these things, I don't have to worry about the code, the details itself. I can just start to click fix. And I'm not going to fix everything here, but you'll notice that it starts to add these issues counts up here. And if I hit submit, what this is actually going to do is it's going to create a pull request. And if you're familiar with using, version control systems like GitHub or GitLab, it's sending a pull request right into my repository. So this is the repository of my GitHub account that I've just created. And if I just refresh this, you're going to notice that all of a sudden I now have a pull request. And that came from Prisma Cloud. And so it's starting to do a scan and to see, all the fixes that I just added, and you'll see this in the commit. So this is the actual code that Prisma Cloud has automatically added to this pull request. So we're fixing those issues just with a couple clicks of a button, and we don't have to worry about the details of the code itself. So this makes it super easy for the security operations teams or whoever's in that role to send those fixes downstream without having to like go chase the team down or send spreadsheets or emails or whatever. Right now, they just have the power to do these code fixes and send them back downstream. I'm just going to show you one more. And I know I'm just about out of time here, but I wanted to show you identities and secrets because we did talk about that early on. So let's see this one here. So in this repository, let's just clear these messages. You'll notice here secrets, right? So these secrets, I created fake secrets for my own demo purposes, but it's noticing that we've got secrets that have been stored in code. Obviously, again, this is high risk. This is not something we want to do. We also can see IAM policies, right? So here, this is a very highly privileged policy, and we're saying, no, this isn't good. You can't allow asterisk on all resources. So there's also, multiple different ways. I'm only showing you a very, small snippet of some examples today. But again, it goes back to the whole idea that we want to be thinking holistically. How are we going to help not just fix these issues at runtime, but actually fix these things as early on as possible to help teams speed things up, get security baked in as early as possible, and that's going to help them on their journey. So I'm going to stop sharing if I can figure out how to do that. I think that's this button again. Stop share screen. Excellent.
Nailed it.
And
well done.
And I just put this diagram. It's a little busy, on the screen, but just kind of soak this in. Just thinking about, again, everything I've kind of talked about today. I know this is, laser fast trying to go through this, but as you think about, your security. Again, I can't stress enough how important it is to shift left, get stuff fixed as early as possible. We're going to set up these these controls and policies all the way through your your entire development cycle to make sure that you're not just fixing these things, but also maintaining your security through that whole life cycle. And I will stop it there, and we can take some questions.
That sounds great. Well, John, that was a really interesting presentation. I love the demo. I know you had to move quickly, but I think you crammed a lot of really good info in there for the audience, so I appreciate that. We are very short on time, but I'm going to sneak in one question before we go. I'm just wondering, this is a great question for somebody out there, especially if they're weighing a few different vendors or solutions. What is the main value that you see for somebody considering working with you?
Yeah, to me, again, I being a platform engineer, like I said, I saw firsthand just how hard it is to get security baked in. Again, I'll use the analogy of manufacturing, right? There's not a manufacturer in this world who would just be fixing things, after they've been delivered, right? It's super inefficient, right? If you have a bad part, again, this is the same as your code or whatever it is that you're building to deploy to the cloud, right? You want to fix those things as soon as possible. And you also think about things like supply chain attacks. We've seen some pretty devastating impacts from things like SolarWinds and Kaseya, right? You absolutely want to be fixing these things as early on as possible. And again, we're super unique in the sense that we've built out this platform that helps, do all that stuff for you. So it isn't just security. I mean, security is obviously the top of mind, but it also makes you far more efficient. The customers who adopt our platform, they have huge efficiency gains. They realize that now, their security teams and their developers can work together. It's like kumbaya, right? It's amazing, right? This is like unheard of if you worked in this environment before, but really it's the truth. Is all of a sudden now they can talk the same language. They're not just lobbing stuff over the fence, and your business is going to benefit hugely from that.
I love that. Well, yeah, it is always that balance with security and efficiency, and I love the kumbaya imagery. Before I ask you my last question here, I do want to point out to everyone out there that we have put up a poll question for you. We want to know what additional information you would like to get about the Palo Alto Network solution. So if you are sitting there right now thinking this has been great and I really want to learn more, or I feel like we've just scratched the surface, you're right. There's lots more to learn. So take a second right now and click on that poll and let John and the Palo Alto Networks team know what they can do to follow up with you, how they can get you the information that you need so that you can keep rolling with this conversation. So take a minute and fill that poll out. My last question for you, John, if somebody out there, besides the things that are up on the screen, which they can click on right now, if someone out there is really ready to jump in and wants to get started, what do you recommend? What's their first step?
Yeah, and actually, I apologize. I missed this at the end, so hopefully everybody can see this. You can start a free trial here. So click that link if you guys see that on the screen. There's a 30-day free trial that we offer, and just give it a spin, and reach out to our customer sales folks if you need some additional help or interested to extend that trial or to become a customer.
All right, I love that. Well, John, again, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thanks for everyone.
All right, folks, I'm leaving that link up or that slide up just a second longer here because I want to give you a second to click on that start a free trial or download the report link. Now, that download the report link is also in the handouts tab. So if you realize in about 10 seconds when I switch back over to the poll, which is happening right now, if you realize that you did not make it over there in time to click on that link for the report, no worries. Go ahead and head on over to the handouts tab and you will find that waiting for you there. Okay, well, I'm going to give you a second to click on the poll there because we do really want to make sure that we hear from all of you, so please do take a moment to do that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to give away a couple of prizes. So we're going to do 2 this time. 2 prizes. We'll do the gift card, and then we'll do one of those Microsoft Surface Laptop 5s. I'm going to remind you again that you do need to be here live present at the MegaCast in order to win. I just feel kind of like a flight attendant when I say that. Must be here present at the MegaCast. And we are going to give away a $500 Amazon gift card to Oscar Resendez of Texas. Oscar Resendez of Texas, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Up next for a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5, that's going to go to Dan Williams of Kentucky. Dan Williams of Kentucky, you have won a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5. So congratulations to you both, to Oscar and to Dan. And we will be in touch about claiming your prizes after we wrap. I'm going to remind you that there's still a few more chances to win a prize today, so stay tuned for that, plus that best question gift card from each session. Remember, even if we don't get to your question live in the sessions, you are still entered to win just by asking those questions, so keep that coming in. All right, well, the good news just keeps on coming because we have another awesome presentation lined up for you. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce you all to our next presenter on the MegaCast. And folks, we are in for a good one because up next we have Victor Camacho, Principal Technologist at Cohesity. So great to see you again, Victor. I know you have a ton of info for us today, so the platform is all yours.
Very good, and thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody. As I was introduced, my name is Vic Camacho. I'm a Principal Technologist with the Technology Advocacy Group at Cohesity. And in today's topic, we are going to go ahead and cover, I should just advance the slide here. There we go. Can everybody see that, I hope? And so today we're going to be talking about protecting your as a service like M365 and others. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. To be able to adequately protect your as a service offerings, we have to first understand what the current trends and challenges are for folks that are actually using this. And so we have to understand that today there's actually an impressive growth of data, right? We are growing data at a very exponential rate. And so you have data that can live just about anywhere today. You can have data that lives in the cloud. You can have data that's also living within your on-premises data centers, but data can also live at the edge locations like areas like remote offices, branch offices, locations like that. They are also being accessed by various mechanisms. Users are able to access data via phones, tablets, and laptops. They can access these things from their home networks where security is less stringent, network security is less stringent. And so we have to take extra caution in a as-a-service world today. And again, some of the other challenges is we also have increased cybersecurity threats to not just your on-premises environments, but also your SaaS data. Threats like bad actors getting access to the environment, and also malicious code like ransomware. And then finally down there is definitely a talent or a skills shortage. There is a gap there in folks that are trying to move to an as-a-service model. Many of the folks that have the talent and those skills are already working for the vendors. And so there is a shortage or a skills gap in the environment. And so we have to be able to account for those things as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the numbers, the trends and challenges by the numbers. And the slide is not advancing for me. There we go.
If you just click next, there you go. You got it.
Yeah, it took a bit for it to move forward. I'm on a kind of a slow bandwidth here, so just bear with me for a little bit. And so today, there are 2.5 quintillion bytes of data that are generated each day, right? If we this is talking to the previous slide when we're talking about the exponential growth of data. And so we have to be able to effectively manage that from a very simplistic manner, from a platform that can give you a unified view into all the data, regardless of where it lives. Another part of that is that today there are 45% of attacks are due to ransomware or cryptojacking. Now, we already know that ransomware is a thing today. It's being discussed in the boardrooms, within the IT practitioner space. And today there is an attack that happens about every 11 seconds, right? Ransomware attacks are attacking every 11 seconds. An organization somewhere every 11 seconds. Now, back in 2019, that number was at 14 seconds. So the needle is definitely moving in the wrong direction. And so we have to be able to account for that. Being able to protect and secure your data and give you isolated copies of your data as well. In case that you do become compromised, you have an insurance policy, if you will. So you have to be able to account for the rise of ransomware attacks. Just move forward here. And then again, because of the skill shortage gap, there is an annual revenue loss in tech of about 162 billion in annual revenue loss just because of the talent shortage, right? So there are breaches that are happening today, and we don't know how to effectively countermeasure that today. And so we have to account for that. And so at Cohesity, how do we do this? So we just announced Cohesity Data Cloud. Right now, Cohesity Data Cloud is our service offering as a service offering, and we already know that Cohesity today offers data protection, not just within your own on-premises environments, but we can also provide backup as a service. We do this with our data protection solution, and so we call it data protection as a service, but it is essentially a backup as a service offering. Within the Data Cohesity Cloud, we also give you strong data security. So we employ things like encryption. We follow zero trust policies, so that we employ things like multi-factor authentication, so that people that are trying to gain access have to prove by a secondary authentication mechanism that they are who they say they are. We also follow the privilege of least access, and we accomplish this through role-based access controls. Now, this is again yet just another challenge or a roadblock for bad actors and bad code like ransomware, malicious code like ransomware, and being able to limit the blast radius so that they don't have access or unfettered access to all of the network, only those parts that we've restricted it down to. So this helps to minimize that blast radius. And then again, data mobility. Our Cohesity Data Cloud is giving you the ability to access the data from anywhere, right? Whether you're in the cloud, if you want to move data from your on-premises environments into the cloud or to a secondary location, we can help you do that as well. And then accessing your data from anywhere, right? Your data doesn't just live in your on-premises data centers. It can live anywhere. And so we give you a unified platform that allows you to connect to your on-premises environment, that allows you to connect to your cloud workloads as well. And then on the right there, and something I'm really excited about is the data insights part, right? So back at the end of August, we announced, while at VMware Explore 2022, we came out with the announcement of Cohesity Data Hawk. Now, Cohesity Data Hawk is a solution that provides threat intelligence so that it can detect anomalous behavior with your data or anomalous behavior with your users. And this can be an early indication of an emerging attack so that you can get in front of that. And so we're really excited about that. It also provides what we call data discovery and classification. So it provides data classification. It'll help you to detect data like PII, or personal identifiable information, data like PHI, or protected health information, that is highly regulated through regulatory controls or regulatory laws like HIPAA. And so what you can do is effectively tag this data, understand where it may be living, because sometimes data can reside in non-production environments, whether that's done intentionally or accidentally. We have to be able to understand where our data is at and then move that data to a protected zone so that it can be better managed, protected, and secured. And so that is something that I will briefly talk about later in this presentation. So Cohesity Data Cloud provides scale and simplicity It is one unified platform. It employs zero trust security with multi-factor authentication and role-based access controls. And it is AI and ML powered, so artificial intelligence and machine learning powered. The longer your data sits within the Cohesity platform, the more it learns about it, so that we can get early indications of an emerging attack, so that we can discover anomalous behavior in the environment to help you to get in front of an emerging attack, and so that you can help recover much earlier. And we have an excellent third-party ecosystem, so we have some extensibility. Cohesity, we are an API first driven organization. And so you may already have some security solutions employed within your data centers already. And so you can get greater value by that. Because we integrate with some great partners out there, folks like Palo Alto Networks, folks like CrowdStrike, Cisco, and others, it allows your IT ops and your security operations teams to work a little more closely together in collaboration to help fight against cyber threats like ransomware and bad actors. And so at Cohesity, we really just want to be able to give you one platform that can manage all your data. Centralized data management, centralized data protection, and centralized data security. Now, you can choose various consumption models, as denoted at the bottom there. We have the Cohesity managed solution, so we can manage the data for you. It is back-ended by AWS, and so we can manage that for you. And so what this gives you is the ability to avoid some capital expenditures, right? So there's nothing to purchase, nothing to install and configure and manage. We can completely manage that for you. You just simply sign up and start protecting. But if you want to go the self-managed route, you can also do that. And so if you have your Cohesity environment on-prem, you can actually protect those workloads that you see there. So AWS workloads, Azure workloads, GCP workloads, and other cloud service provider workloads. If you have your own preferred partner that you're working with, we also allow them to manage the data for you. So if you have folks like Expedia or Rackspace as an example, you can choose to use them. Again, it's just simply a matter of signing up and consuming the service. And then just a high-level slide here, right? So the Cohesity Cloud Services is really just a portfolio of multiple as-a-service offerings. Today, we are hosted in AWS, so many of the regions that AWS has, we also take advantage of those, and we're adding more to that, right? It is designed to secure and manage your data. Again, following zero trust principles, we want to be able to provide security and data protection so that you can recover in an efficient manner, in an efficient managed way in case you do become compromised. And so Cohesity Cloud Services is built on our Cohesity Data Cloud. And so we do offer services like backup and recovery, right? So you may have workloads on-prem already. So if you're familiar with the Cohesity systems, it is the same user interface, the same look and feel. So the learning curve is drastically reduced. We also provide data isolation and recovery. Now, this is something that we announced not too long ago as well. And so data isolation is accomplished through a capability that we call Cohesity Fort Knox. And Fort Knox is a SaaS-based data isolation solution that allows you to store your data, an immutable copy of your data, far, far and away from your on-prem data centers, right? And so if you're familiar with CISA, or the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, earlier in the year, they launched an initiative called Shields Up. And Shields Up says that you should be storing your data in an immutable fashion so that it's tamper resistant. It also says that you should keep an isolated copy of your data. Should your on-premises environment become compromised, and that could be your production data, it could be your localized backup copies. If that becomes compromised, then you should at least have the ability to recover from your isolated copies of your data. And so that data should also be written immutable. You should be backing up that data in an immutable fashion so that the data becomes tamper resistant. And so that is done through the use of our Cohesity Fort Knox solution. And then we have automated disaster recovery with our site continuity as a service. This allows you to fail over workloads from your on-premises environment to a secondary location. You can also recover from our vaulting capability with Fort Knox to your primary and your secondary locations if you have those. And then finally, to round out our Cohesity Cloud services, it's that threat intelligence and data classification that we are accomplishing through our new solution called Cohesity Data Hawk. And so with threat intelligence, it allows you to detect anomalous behavior so that you can get in front or ahead of an impending or emerging attack. It is able to detect that behavior within your users too, so that if you have a bad actor that is trying to access systems that they don't have the rights to, right, because they've compromised somebody else's credentials, then using that zero trust policies, zero trust principles, we can help limit that, but also help detect that so that your incident response teams can get involved and help cordon those attacks, cyber attacks off. And so we're just going to get a little deeper into the various services here. Our backup as a service is a SaaS offering, but we can also help protect your on-premises workloads. This was actually our very first as a service offering in the portfolio. It existed for some time now. And again, it protects both your cloud workloads and your on-premises workloads. We can protect workloads like EC2, your Amazon EC2 instances, if you have those, your RDS. In Microsoft, in Azure, we can help protect your M365 workloads. If you're using VMware, we can help you to protect your virtual machine workloads or even Microsoft's Hyper-V virtual machine workloads. We can help protect your legacy NAS environment. So if you are trying to extend the life of a NAS appliance, we can help protect some of that data too. And it also helps with the migration effort. So we can help host that data until you have a migration policy in place. And again, we protect databases like SQL and Oracle and some of your physical assets as well. Again, using the as-a-service model, there is no infrastructure to manage. You simply sign up and start protecting your workloads. And so there is no configuration needed, no installations needed. Like any cloud service provider, we do have tenant separation. We have separation between tenants so that you'll never see another tenant's information. We do this through network segmentation and some other controls. And so we do have that tenant separation so that your data is safe. The as-a-service model that we are using today employs is being backended by AWS. And so we do have our own KMS capabilities, key management service and encryption with Cohesity. But because we are being backended by AWS, you can opt to use AWS KMS solution. And so we're giving you some options there to be able to encrypt and secure your data. And then we are capacity-based pricing. And so for the financial folks out there, this gives you an easy way to be able to budget. It gives you predictability of what the monthly bill or the tally is going to be. So this makes it a lot easier for pricing. And again, you can scale up and scale back as needed. So it gives you the predictability of what you're going to be spending on budget. And so it's very easy. You sign up, you connect, and you can start to protect your workloads. Now, the next as a service offering is data isolation and recovery. I mentioned this already. And this is done through our Cohesity Fort Knox solution. Now, on the slide there, you see your primary location. Your primary location is customer managed. This would be your physical Cohesity clusters that you manage on your data center. And what you can do is, as you create backup policies, you can have that backup policy automatically vault the data and put the data in an isolated state within the Fort Knox data centers or the backend with AWS. And obviously that is managed by Cohesity. And so in the case that your environment becomes compromised, then what you could do is recover data from the Cohesity Fort Knox data vaulting capabilities back to that environment. Now, one thing we need to mention here, one thing I'd like to mention here is we do have a secondary approval process that is accomplished through our quorum feature. Now, quorum says that you need at least 2 people to make any changes to the system, but also if you're going to recover from Fort Knox to an environment, it's also going to take a secondary approver to make that action happen. And we did this with the purpose of ensuring that if somebody made an accidental recovery of bad data, that a secondary person could catch that. If you had a malicious actor in the environment and they tried to recover, they couldn't do that themselves. They would have to rely on a secondary approver to be able to kick that action off. And so they can very quickly approve or deny the request, and so thereby eliminating any potential for bad data getting back to the environment and reinfecting it with bad data. But also, we don't force you to go back to your primary location. We do have the ability from Fort Knox to recover to an alternate location. So if you do have another location, in addition to the DR, the disaster recovery as a service that we offer, you can also recover data from Fort Knox in the case that you do become compromised. Excuse me. And so the next as-a-service offering that we have is our Cohesity Site Continuity. And this is that automated DR failover and failback orchestration. So essentially, it orchestrates and automates all of the recovery for you. And so if you have a Cohesity system, your on-prem data centers in production, it takes snapshot-based backups. It does have CDP or continuous data protection. And so you have the ability to automatically fail over your mission-critical assets, right, to be able to better meet the demand of your business continuity service level agreements so that you can automatically fail over to a secondary or DR location so that you can get your business operations running and try to help those. Excuse me. And so we do this all, again, all within the Helios platform, which is going to be called the Cohesity Data Cloud. And so it gives you a unified platform to manage all of this. And then finally, to round out here, we have the Cohesity DataHawk solution. This is our latest offering. We just announced this about 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe. And this is machine-based anomaly detection. It is AI-driven threat intelligence and scanning. So we want to be able to detect anomalous behavior. With the threat detection, it utilizes and can scan against the latest IOCs that can help to detect that. And it's continuously being updated because as time goes, a lot of those risks are being identified and added to the system. It is cloud-based, this is an as-a-service, and so it's essentially point and click. So essentially you would manage it by creating a backup policy, and within that backup policy, you can decide by a simple check mark whether you also want to vault the data and if you want to put data classification and intelligence with it. So we give you the option to choose that if you'd like. And again, finally, one of the things that I feel is very important is the integrations that we have with our security partners out there that do this day in and day out on a day-to-day basis. And so partnering with them allows your IT ops teams and your security operations teams to be able to effectively work in collaboration to help fight cyber attacks like ransomware and bad actors. And then what are the benefits here? Well, some of the customer benefits here is that this is very easily scalable. You can scale up and back as required. You can eliminate some of that capital expenditure by avoiding having to procure hardware and configure it and maintain it afterwards. It's built on zero trust principles, right? In summary, it's built on zero trust principles. We employ multi-factor authentication or MFA. We employ role-based access controls to help satisfy the privilege of least access so that we can help reduce the blast radius. Anything you back up with us is immutable so that the data is tamper resistant. And then we give you rapid recovery with our instant mass recovery feature that allows you to as an example, recover your VM workloads in mass so that you can get your IT and your business operations up quickly and efficiently. And then finally, we do employ data lock, and it uses our worm technology, which is write once, read many, so that if you are to be breached or compromised by something like ransomware, that data is tamper resistant. As we know, the ransomware looks for data that it can write to, that is writable data. And so when you back up with us, we employ worms so that the data is only readable, and so ransomware can't do anything, which gives you a bit of the upper hand, because then you can get in there and clean up ransomware before it starts to find other data through our threat intelligence and anomaly detection. And then it's just the simplified operations of everything. There's no infrastructure to manage. The portfolio of services is all under one single operation, and you can access that today through our Helios at cohesity.com, which is our Cohesity data cloud. And that's it. I want to thank everybody for joining. I think we have a few questions for some Q&A.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vic. That was such a great presentation. And I do want to really quickly point out that we have put a poll up for you all. So we want to know what additional information you would like to get about the Cohesity solution. So please do take a minute there and fill that out. Again, your future self will thank you for clicking on that poll now, because you're going to get some great follow-ups from the Cohesity crew. And you know you're going to want to get a little bit more information after we wrap. So click on that poll now and let them know what you would like to hear. Vic, we are extremely short on time, so we do have some questions coming in. I'm going to make sure that you get all of them so that you do have a chance to answer some of them, because I think we're really not going to get to many of them today at all. But I do want to just ask one if I can. I'll just take one of the ones. Okay, so I'm looking to protect vSphere workloads with Cohesity's cloud backup solution. Can I do this, and how would I get started?
Yes, absolutely. So it's really easy. You can, if you're already using Cohesity today, and you have a My Cohesity account, you can actually request it through there, or you can reach out to your account managers, your account teams in the area. If you do not use Cohesity today, it's as easy as going to cohesity.com, and we do have a trial, right? So I believe it's a 30-day trial, but you can go there, you sign up, create an account, and then it's as easy as just being able to detect the workloads you want to protect and then start protecting them.
That's awesome.
That's
okay,
the beauty. I think that's the beauty of it. Sorry, I was just going to say that's the beauty of an as-a-service model, is that you sign up and you consume the service as needed.
Yeah, absolutely, which is so important. And you transitioned nicely into my final question for you, which is, if somebody is really amped up and ready to get started, is that demo the best way to get rolling, or how do they reach out to Cohesity? How do they get going?
Usually it's through the account teams, if they have an account team or they know who that is. If not, I'm free to share my email. I will get you in contact with the right people. So that's a very easy way to do it. So we're pretty accessible. You can go to the website, cohesity.com. You can ask for a trial on any of the as-a-service offerings that we have there. And again, if you already have a My Cohesity account, then you can also access it through that. So it's very easy to contact us. But I would recommend going through your account teams, because they're going to be, most of the time, they'll be familiar with what you're doing already.
Right, the most attuned to you and your needs and your organization. Awesome. Vic, thank you so much for a great presentation. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everybody who's listened.
And to everyone out there who filled out the poll, thank you. Please keep that coming in. Also, get those questions in. I know we didn't have a lot of time to pause today, but there's just so many great questions, and we are going to make sure that Cohesity and Vic get a chance to respond to all of you. So please do keep those questions coming in. And while you're filling out the poll, I'm going to go ahead and give away another prize. So up next, we are going to give away a $500 Amazon gift card. And then, oh my goodness, I thought it was just going to be the gift card. We're also going to give away a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5. So a double whammy. Again, I'm going to remind you that you do need to be here live, present at the MegaCast in order to win. Up next, the $500 Amazon gift card is going to Terrence Mitchell of Utah. Terrence Mitchell of Utah, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Congratulations. Our next winner of a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5 is Alfred Fan of California. Alfred Fan of California. Congratulations to Alfred on your new laptop. And Terrence and Alfred, we will follow up with you after we wrap today about claiming your prizes. Don't forget that there is still one more chance to win after our next presentation, and there is that best question gift card for each session. So every time you enter in a question, you are not only being extra awesome and inquisitive and curious, you are also entering yourself to win that $50 Amazon gift card. So that's win-win right there. All right, well, let's keep zipping along in our MegaCast today, because it is my pleasure to introduce you to our next and also last presenter in this MegaCast. Don't know how that happened so fast, but here we are. Up next, we're going to hear from Meg Diaz, Vice President, Platform Solutions Marketing at Lacework. Meg, thank you so much for being here to round us out today. I know you're going to bring it home in style. I will hand the mic right on over to you.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro, Jess. And I'm really excited to be with all of you today. Now, whether you're a company that was born in the cloud and you've been building there from the very beginning, or if you're now moving from on-prem workloads to cloud-native applications, or you have plans to, it can be a bit daunting to know where to even start when it comes to securing the cloud. And it can be a totally different beast from on-prem. Or maybe you've been doing it for a while and you might be looking at what your next step is going to be to advance your cloud security program. Well, today we're going to really walk through the 5-step journey that you can take to full cloud security. But first, I want to start off with a little analogy, because who doesn't love an analogy? And when you think about cloud environments, right, they're wonderful. They open up a lot of freedom for builders, but they're also complex and really dynamic in nature. There are different security layers that you want to think about, right? When you think about defense in depth, same thing applies in the cloud. And it's similar to how you might think about securing a multi-tenant office building, right? First thing you want to do is make sure all of the windows and doors are locked and that they stay locked. You want to prioritize that first floor, external doors and other high-risk entries first. That's the same thing in the cloud when you want to uncover vulnerabilities, whether it's in container images or fixing misconfigurations in your cloud accounts, like an open S3 bucket. Now, just addressing this piece might be the initial start, but more advanced security is really needed when you think about the sensitivity of data that you have in your cloud and the evolving threat landscape that we're all facing. So when you think about from a building perspective, you want to start monitoring who's entering the building and where are they going based on badge-ins, right? You think if you had employee 1 badges into the building, then goes to the kitchen, then to the office area for company A, right? Is this normal behavior? This is kind of similar to the monitoring that you want to be able to do for cloud accounts and services like Kubernetes. Where you kind of build this understanding of how the environment typically operates. And so that can give you insight to who deployed or modified a certain service in a specific region and determine, was this expected? And by monitoring this activity, you can uncover account compromise and things like that. Now, then you want to go deeper, right? When you think about from a security perspective, you might want to use smart cameras to watch what's happening in hallways in the office or meeting rooms and make sure that people are where they belong and doing the things that they should be doing. So that's kind of like monitoring your workloads and containers in runtime and watching for unusual activity, like changes to files or an application talking to an external IP for the first time. All things that could be signs of a potential attack. And then the last not last, but another thing is all of these elements, how they work together. That's where it becomes much more powerful when you combine all of the insights together. So think about it like having a centralized team of security guards that are constantly analyzing the information and can alert when something suspicious is happening. And because they have all of the recorded activity over time, investigations can be easier too. And the same thing applies to the cloud, right? When you're investigating malicious activity in a particular workload, you want to have that play-by-play about what actually happened. And so these are just some of the elements that we think about when securing your cloud infrastructure and data. So let's talk a little bit more about specific steps that you can take in securing your cloud. We're going to walk through each of these steps in a bit more detail. And I will call out that this was really built more from the perspective of how a security team could approach it. And it's definitely not a hard and fast, you must take these 5 steps in this exact order, right? You need to think about what's right for your organization and where your specific concerns lie. So you can really think of this as 5 major areas to factor into your overall plans. Cloud security isn't a completely new area, obviously. And like all technology, it's been evolving, right? And one of the new buzzwords that you may be hearing, and you saw in the title of the presentation, is CNAPP. Now, CNAPP, if you're not familiar with it, it stands for Cloud Native Application Protection Platform. And it's really all about how you secure cloud apps through their entire lifecycle. So it's really combining some existing product categories like cloud security posture management, or CSPM, and cloud workload protection platforms, or CWPP. But it's a category that is now including a lot more, which we'll get into in a minute. But you can really think of CNAPP as really the solution that can help you across this entire journey of securing cloud native applications. Now, getting into the first step of the journey, right? Understanding your cloud and your risks. I mentioned earlier, securing what you build in the cloud is really a different beast, right? It's easy for anyone to spin up new accounts and services, and it can be really hard to get visibility into what is actually the true scope of your cloud and where are the biggest risks. And you think of also, the scale and the ephemeral nature of the cloud, it can be hard to actually understand what's happening and what you should be concerned about. So to tackle this step, it all starts with getting visibility into risks across your cloud. From a Lacework perspective, we deploy in minutes to your cloud account. So whether it's using AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, all of them, and we're tying into the existing APIs that they have. And so we can show you what you have deployed, how it's configured, if there are any vulnerabilities or misconfigurations that exist. And you can also agentlessly scan workloads for vulnerabilities and secrets. So you get that instant coverage of your production environments. And that includes, scanning container images, hosts, and language libraries. And so when you get this visibility into your cloud resources and what's happening and where there are risks, it helps you answer questions like, how many environments do we actually have, right? We know a lot of customers who are like, I'm not actually sure how much is out there. What assets do we have? Where are they? How are they configured? Are we meeting compliance standards? So this first step is really all about helping you answer those questions. Then the next thing is, once you have all of that kind of risk information, actually prioritizing what vulnerabilities and misconfigurations or other risks to prioritize fixing can be challenging, right? You think it's easy to find a tool that can find vulnerable systems, right? And give you a list of hundreds or thousands of vulnerabilities to fix. And the harder part is to figure out which ones actually matter and which ones should your team focus on. And what we really look at is, security teams can kind of be viewed as the heroes by giving developers and operations teams the right context to help them fix the most important things. So from at Lacework, we kind of take all of that risk data that you have and correlate it together to show what combinations of risk factors and vulnerable resources could lead to potential attack paths. So you take things like vulnerabilities, the network reachability of systems. If there's exposed secrets, you can look at identity and access management roles, IAM roles, and tie all of that together so you get a full picture of the issues on different hosts and systems. So that's, instead of it being somebody looking at a single issue in isolation, they're now seeing how that one risk is actually linked to several others. And we can even pull in runtime data to make this even richer. And now by doing this, you basically get a view of your environment through the lens of an attacker, right? The attackers will look for different ways to get in and different gaps that they can take advantage of once they are in to get to kind of those crown jewels that you have. And by automatically tying together this information in this way, you can really better prioritize which issues to address first to reduce the risk. You can even see a visualization to aid in the investigation. and then leverage remediation guidance to do something about it. So really, this step is all about helping you answer questions like, how do we prioritize all these vulnerabilities? What else could actually be exploited that we should be concerned about? Now, moving on to the next one, build security into development. So this step actually tends to be the most hotly debated. Pretty much everybody agrees that the ideal state is to factor security into the development process so that you're not constantly fixing things in production, which can be costly and time intensive to do. And let's face it, like, it's just annoying for developers. So this step is all about building security checks into development, shifting security left so that you're fixing more issues pre-production. And now, once you have kind of an initial lay of the land of your cloud from the other two steps, security teams might want to introduce this more to developers, right? They're more comfortable with it and they want to start incorporating it in other ways. Now, the debate comes in about whether you introduce it at this point or later in the journey. And what I would say is that it ultimately depends on your organization and your priorities and how this will be perceived and adopted by those teams. So take that with a grain of salt. And I think it comes down to whatever makes sense for you. Just keep in mind how you can operationalize this and incorporate it directly into the developers or the operations team's workflows. That's an important point that we've seen. Now, to do this, Lacework offers several options to help developers to scan locally or in registries that they're using or directly in the CI/CD pipeline and look for vulnerabilities and misconfigurations. And we also help with infrastructure as code scanning as well, so you can get even earlier in the process. Now, the other piece that we focus on is giving developers enough context so that they don't have to go researching in a bunch of places, and we give remediation guidance too. You think about if you were to give a vulnerability to a developer, the more information that you can provide them about where it is, why it's critical to fix it, and how to fix it, it's just saving them the time and even helps in building the relationships between the teams. So now that you have an understanding of how your cloud environment is configured and where you have risks, you then want to think about monitoring what's actually happening in your cloud accounts and services. So this could include things like Kubernetes. And this is how we can see if you've been compromised through any of those critical risks. And if you were, then how do you understand the blast radius? We often hear from customers that one way that they do this is by sending all of their cloud audit logs to a SIEM. And then they have to spend a lot of time manually writing or tuning rules to try to figure out what is bad or what does bad look like. And this can be a challenge because it requires a lot of deep security and cloud expertise, which can be a little bit like finding a unicorn. I'm sure many of you can attest to that. And then because there's not only the, trying to figure out and write rules for what's bad, with the constant changes that happen in the cloud, it can also result in a lot of alerts and false positives that can take time for the team to sift through. And at Lacework, we have a patented technology called Polygraph that combines behavioral analytics and machine learning. And it's basically continuously learning what behaviors are normal in your specific environment. So we're comparing you to you, not some arbitrary baseline. It's really what's happening in your environment. It learns that and then identifies when there are meaningful changes. And that's how we help you to uncover account compromise or other malicious activity. And we're tying together the context to help you quickly understand what happened, why, how, and so on. So we give you kind of the 5 W's. And the way that we do this is through cloud audit log analysis. And by pre-filtering and analyzing those logs with Lacework, instead of sending all of it to your SIEM, you can significantly reduce your SIEM ingest costs of cloud, whether it's CloudTrail or other cloud audit logs. And this is actually an area we've had customers report up to an 80% reduction in SIEM ingestion by doing that pre-filtering with Lacework first, and then only sending the most meaningful data to the SIEM. And now taking a step further with securing workloads, you want to look at more completely securing those workloads and containers. And we hear a lot from customers that are looking to develop more of a microservices based architecture, and they want to make sure that they can extend that same visibility and security here too that they have in other areas of their cloud. But the challenge can be getting the right level of depth of visibility to really understand what's happening there within the workloads, within the containers. And so we have at Lacework, we have a workload and container security agent that basically it's lightweight, but it's continuously monitoring your most important applications and environments, especially. So this can help you find new risks. So whether it's new vulnerabilities that pop up in production or misconfigurations that happen. And especially when we're looking at workloads and containers that are actively running in production. And so we help you understand the changes in behavior to detect whether it's unknown threats, so like even zero-day attacks, because we're looking at the behavior of what's happening. We're not relying solely on indicators of compromise or known signatures. We can detect not only known threats, because we do cover that, but even the unknown threats we can do. And that's really the beauty of the polygraph technology is uncovering that anomalous activity without requiring endless rules or deep security expertise. It's the system learning that automatically and helping to pull together the right context and provide the right visibility so that you can understand what's happening and if there's any evidence of compromise. So really with this, it's about being able to answer the question of what's actually happening in our workloads and are the right things talking to the right things in our environment? Is anything happening that shouldn't be happening? And if there is something bad that happens, how do we identify it and quickly shut down those threats? So bringing this all together. So we walked through all these steps, and really it's about how all of this comes together. So at Lacework, our platform that does all of this is our polygraph data platform. So it's unifying all of these capabilities and then covering you from the very beginning of development with IAC all the way through to production. So across that entire application lifecycle. And the beauty of it is really as you move to the right on this slide, there's more and more data that we're able to correlate together to help you gain even richer insights. So it's not all this siloed data that your team has to manually pull together. We're automating that work for you. So for example, in a single alert, you can understand the potential exposure and risk that you face, but then you can see that in combination with insights about if there's active exploit activity happening, right? So you could find a vulnerable system, but is there also some active exploit activity happening in production? And so we're automating this for you, giving you the context that you need to quickly investigate and then take action. And an important point, I think, for any sort of platform is how it integrates into your team's existing workflows to really make the process seamless across security, developer, and operations teams. And just to kind of show that, like, this is what we really focus on is with our security platform. It's about understanding behaviors in your cloud environment. And so a big piece of that is the fact that this is really a data-driven platform. We are using data as really an active part of the solution. And so the system is constantly learning and getting smarter over time. And you're leveraging the data that you already have, but then using it to make your teams and your security more effective. And we look at this as one place for each of these teams that we've talked about to know the security truth across your cloud. So it's that single security source of truth across your cloud environment. And it's really built in the cloud for the cloud and for a multi-cloud environment too. And so that's kind of the overview, some of the steps that you can take. So if you want to see more, you can visit lacework.com, see it in action. And Jess, I think we'll open it up for some questions now.
Yeah, Meg, thank you so much for that awesome presentation. I love the single source of truth. I think that's something that a lot of us are looking for. So I know that's really going to resonate with our audience. Speaking of which, we have a ton of great questions coming in already, and I want to get to as many of them as we can. So Meg, are you ready to dive in?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. All right. So this is actually an interesting place to start because there's a lot of hype these days around the agentless approaches to cloud security. I've definitely heard some vendors say that an agentless approach alone can fulfill the promise of CNAP. So this audience member is kind of wanting to dig into that a little bit. They're asking if you could speak to the value of an agentless approach to cloud security and whether or not that approach alone is sufficient to achieving full cloud security.
Yeah, happy to. And it is something, I mean, agentless is a great it's a great technology, right? Because it gives you the ability to, you can deploy very quickly. And like we had talked about earlier, right? Sometimes it's just about how do I just get visibility? It's also not always feasible to deploy agents everywhere. Sometimes there can be pushback that you get from different teams. And so to kind of aid security teams in getting the right visibility with as little friction as possible, agentless is a great approach for that. And that's why, Lacework offers that as well. But when you think about kind of going back to the analogy about the smart cameras constantly watching what's going on, when you think about actually continuously monitoring what's happening in workloads, that's where having some sort of agent there is, a piece of software, something there to actually capture all of the data of what's happening. It just gives you so much more depth and really aids in the investigation, right? You think about, I know with my Ring camera, for example, sometimes if you're missing part of what happened, you could miss somebody stealing a package, right? And that is the same thing where if you're just relying on agentless, it tends to be, it's snapshot based. So you could miss important things that happen. And when you think of how quickly things change in the cloud, we're talking, things can change in milliseconds. So if you're not continuously watching and seeing what's happening, then you could really miss something important that, could leave you open or could be critical during an investigation. So that's really, we look at it as having a layered approach to security. Absolutely using agentless to get started, deploy quickly, and then go deeper, especially for your more critical resources over time.
I love that. I think sometimes we focus so much, we hear that all the time, the human element when you're talking about cybersecurity and human risk factors. And really interesting to think about sort of the flip side of it, where using the human element to our benefit rather than just seeing that as something to kind of protect against. Great information. I want to get to another question here because so there are some elements of CNAP that have been in place from the beginning. And you mentioned in your presentation CSPM and CWPP. But we have a question here wondering if there are any other areas of cloud security that are now being looped into the CNAP umbrella.
Yes. Yeah. Great question. Because I think when you look at CNAP, it did kind of start from those core areas of CSPM and CWPP, like getting the view into the risks and what's happening in the workloads. But you think about cloud security, and I think you think about, first of all, continuing to shift more right and shift more left. I think there's a lot of focus on shifting left, but there's more that I think we can continue to do in helping on on the right side, on the production side. But some of the elements that I think will especially come into CNAP in the future is, I think, even more around shift left security. So when you think about getting deeper into the code, right? Because it's one thing to fix it and block a container using, if there's a risky or a vulnerable container about to be pushed to production, being able to block that with Kubernetes admission controller is one way to prevent. But what if you get further left and being able to stop before it even gets written into code and push through checks? So I think it's really more about how do we just continue to catch security, make it more ingrained into the developer workflows earlier. That'll ultimately help a lot on the, when you're reacting to something that might be happening in production.
All right, we are running very short on time, but I'm going to sneak in one last question here because it's a great one from someone who has clearly been doing their homework. So they said, I recently noticed Lacework's press release around attack path analysis. Now, I know this is something other vendors offer as well. So how is Lacework's approach to attack path differentiated? What is your unique? I think they're wondering.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. We were talking to an analyst recently who was saying that like attack path analysis is like one of the like technologies of the year. It's coming up quite a bit from vendors, and from a Lacework perspective, what we really are looking at is the fact that a lot of vendors will just kind of look at, well, what are the potential risks? And where we really take it a step further is not only showing you what the potentials are and how those are tied together, but then by tying it with what's actually happening in runtime and being able to see active exploit activity or where there maybe isn't, just getting that context is really where Lacework sets ourselves apart, because we bring in that build time, that runtime data, tie it together for you. So making it easier to access it in one place. And it just gives you much richer information and to be able to make decisions and, do the things that really matter.
Well, that is important. And Meg, I have to say, I wish we could keep going with this. We are going to have to leave it there. But before we let you go, for anyone out there that has just totally fallen in love with Lacework, and I'm sure that's all of them, what should the folks in our audience do if they want to get started? What's their first step?
Yeah, so I think, we mentioned go to lacework.com. We also have a new, we were rated by Frost & Sullivan as a leader in CNAP. So you can view the report and check out more details about why. And there's lots of other demos. And if you want to do a trial, lots of other information there.
Awesome. And if you were wondering, that report is in the handouts tab that I've been reminding you about. So head on back over to that handouts tab, click in, find the Lacework link, and you can grab that report there. Meg, thank you so much. This has just been an absolute pleasure chatting with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jess. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, well, I want to point out that once again, we have that poll question up for you all. So we would love to get your feedback on any additional resources that you are really thinking about, wishing you had, and information from Lacework. So click on that poll right now. Let Meg and the Lacework team know how they can follow up with you, what information they can send your way. I also really want to make sure that I emphasize, Meg and I were just talking about that, the Frost Radar report that's in your handout tab. It really is kind of a must read. So it's a Frost Radar Cloud Native Application Protection Platforms Review, all of 2022. A benchmarking system to spark companies to action, innovation that fuels new deal flow and growth pipelines. So much great information in that. I think all of us, as we come to the end of 2022, which I am sort of in denial about, I cannot believe it's December 1st already. As we come to the end of this year, I'm sure a lot of you are already 5-6 months into your planning at 23. So you are thinking ahead, and this is a great resource for you, a great tool. So please do take a minute, grab that report, download that now, save that for later, because I promise you, you're going to want to read through it. So that is an excellent takeaway from the webinar, along with all the other awesome information that is floating around in your head right now. Speaking of cool takeaways, I'm going to leave that poll question up, and I'm going to go ahead and give away 2 more prizes, because I did tell you we would have another double whammy here. So we've got another $500 Amazon gift card, and then we have another Microsoft Surface Laptop 5. These are our last prize giveaways of the day, and you've heard me say it a bunch of times. I'm going to say it one more time. You do need to be here live present at the MegaCast in order to win. So our next winner of a $500 Amazon gift card is Mozine Sajad. Mozine Sajad, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. Oh, excuse me, you are from California. If you are the Mozine Sajad from California, you have won a $500 Amazon gift card. And if you're a Mozine Sajad from Illinois, I'm sorry you have not, but reach out to the other one in California. All right, and then our next winner of a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5 is Jocelyn Blakely Hill of Maryland. Jocelyn Blakely Hill of Maryland, you have won a Microsoft Surface Laptop 5. All right, well, congratulations to Mozine Sajad of California and Jocelyn Blakely Hill of Maryland on your prizes. We will be in touch after we wrap. I'm going to do the full prize list for you all because I know that's always an important reminder for those of you who are coming and going. So we gave a gift card to Larry Myers of Maryland, a gift card to Ihab Suleiman of Ohio, one of the laptops going to Jade Dibble of Tennessee, and a gift card going to Morgan King of Utah, a gift card going to Leon Morgowitz of Michigan, and a laptop going to Amanda Husky of Virginia, a gift card going to Haley Scarborough of Maryland, and a gift card going to Oscar Resendez of Texas, and a laptop going to Dan Williams of Kentucky. Then we have a gift card going to Terrence Mitchell of Utah, a laptop going to Alfred Fan of California, a gift card going to Mozine Sajad of California, and a laptop going to Jocelyn Blakely Hill of Maryland. That is our list of prize winners from the day. Congratulations to all of you on your wins, and we will follow up with you once we've wrapped here. I do also want to remind you that that Best Question gift card is still up for grabs. And I see Ihab out there already. Okay, awesome. We've got everyone's giving the congratulations and high fives to the winners. Leon also sending a high five to all the winners. I love the good vibes from everyone in the community there. Tyler, I see you. Thank you on back for coming and attending. Tyler says thanks to the team for a great webinar. For those of you out there who asked a question, stay tuned because we will be looking at all the questions asked and we will follow up with the best question asked after we've wrapped here today. Now, if you haven't already spent some time on ransomware.org, I'm going to remind you again about this. I was just talking about, we're coming to the end of the year. If you haven't done sort of a temp check, a gut check on your ransomware protection plans in a while, this would be a great time to do that. Those obviously need to be updated regularly, and we have some information available for you at ransomware.org that will kind of help you, guide you through those next steps. So if you're brand new to this kind of plan, or if you have a great plan and it just maybe needs a little bit of a checkup, there's going to be something for you at ransomware.org. So be sure to head on over and check that out. Now, if you are here at the MegaCast today and you're thinking to yourself, what a fun time, I would also like to hang out and talk to David and Jess. Great. We love that plan. Scott, David, myself, we're here. We love making new friends, so come on and chat with us. Just shoot an email to connect@actualtechmedia.com and let us know that you'd like to present on an upcoming webinar, and we'll get that conversation rolling. All right, well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank all of our speakers from CrowdStrike, Gigamon, Rubrik, Census, Glean, Palo Alto Networks, Cohesity, and Lacework for making this MegaCast possible today. What a day it has been. A special thank you to all of you for attending and asking some great questions. I had so much fun with you all today. I know David did as well. We get to talk about some really cool cloud stuff today. So I hope that you have all learned something interesting and helpful, gotten some tips and tricks, and some cool new strategies and solutions. If you're thinking about supercharging that cloud environment, you've learned about some tools, some products, some services that can all help your organization succeed as we head into 2023. All right, now speaking of which, I want to remind you all to mark your calendars for the virtual summit. You can see up on your screen here. This is going to be an incredible follow-up to everything we just talked about. So the plan is to discuss devising your 2023 IT strategy, cloud security, data protection, and infrastructure strategies. Folks, this is an absolutely huge event. I can tell you we have 16 different presentations lined up for you. That is so much information. It is going to be such a long, giant, wonderful information and fun-filled day. So come please and be a part of it with us. I'm really excited about that. If you can't tell, I think it's going to be an amazing time, and I really hope that I get to see all of you there. So please do mark your calendars for that and make sure you come and join us. All right, well, just saying a few last thank yous on chat here. I see you, Douglas, as well. Thank you. I'm glad you learned a lot. And I think that's where we'll have to leave it for now, folks. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope that I get to see you again soon. I hope I see you at the virtual summit, which, if I didn't say it before, is Wednesday, December 7th. That's next week, Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, starting a bit earlier than usual. So mark that down, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday, December 7th for that virtual summit. Hope I get to see you there, and until then, I hope you all have absolutely beautiful rest of your day.